The notification flashed across the conference room screen for exactly 3 seconds. Long enough for Logan Reed to read it. Long enough for his breath to catch. Long enough to change everything. I wish someone would look at me the way Logan does when he thinks I'm not watching. Isabella Vaughn, CEO of Meridian Industries, stood frozen at the podium, her polished composure cracking as 200 employees stared at the projection behind her. Her private message. Her secret thought. Exposed. Logan's coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth. Around him, whispers erupted like wildfire. Someone laughed nervously. Someone else pulled out their phone. And Isabella's eyes, those impossibly controlled dark eyes, found his across the crowded room with something that looked terrifyingly close to panic. This is a story about what happens when the carefully constructed walls we build around ourselves come crashing down in the most public way possible. About a single father who learned to survive by staying invisible, and a woman who spent a lifetime convincing everyone she needed no one. If you want to see how far this story travels, drop a comment with your city and hit that like button. Now, let's go back to where it really started, 3 weeks before that notification changed everything. Logan Reed had perfected the art of being unnoticed. At 32, he'd learned that visibility came with questions, and questions came with complications he couldn't afford. So he arrived at Meridian Industries at 7:45 each morning, 15 minutes before his shift officially started, and left at 5:30, never a minute later. He kept his head down, his work clean, and his interactions professional but brief. It was a system that had kept him and his daughter afloat for 3 years. "Reed, you got a second?" Logan looked up from the logistics report he'd been reviewing to find Marcus Chen leaning against his cubicle divider, coffee in one hand and that familiar grin on his face that usually meant he wanted something. "Depends on the second," Logan said, though he was already minimizing his screen. Marcus slid into the empty chair beside Logan's desk without waiting for an invitation. "The Christmas party. You coming?" "No." "Come on, man. You've worked here 3 years and never been to a single company event." "I'm aware." "Don't you think that's weird?" Logan glanced at him. Marcus was a good guy, the kind who brought donuts on Fridays and remembered people's birthdays. They'd worked together on enough projects that Logan trusted him, which was saying something, but trust didn't mean sharing everything. "I've got a kid," Logan said simply. "Babysitters aren't cheap, and she'd rather I spend the evening with her than with people from work pretending to like each other over cheap wine." Marcus snorted. "Fair, but this year's different. How's that? Open bar, and Vaughn's actually going to be there." Logan's fingers paused over his keyboard. So? Dude, the woman's been CEO for 2 years, and she showed up to exactly 0 employee events. People are saying she's finally trying to seem human. Good for her. You're not even a little curious? About what? Marcus leaned forward, lowering his voice like he was sharing classified information. About whether the Ice Queen actually knows how to smile. Logan kept his expression neutral, but something tightened in his chest. He'd heard the nickname before. Everyone had. Isabella Vaughn, 35 years old, MBA from Stanford, rebuilt Meridian Industries from near bankruptcy to record profits in 18 months. Brilliant, ruthless, cold, the Ice Queen. Logan had seen her exactly 7 times in 3 years. Twice in the lobby, once in the elevator when she'd stepped in while he was heading to the parking garage. Her presence filling the small space with expensive perfume and the kind of silence that made people forget how to breathe. 4 times in company-wide video calls, where she spoke with the kind of precision that made every word feel like it had been weighed and measured before leaving her mouth. He'd never heard her laugh. Never seen her smile at anything that wasn't a financial report showing increased margins. And he definitely noticed the way she looked. Dark hair always pulled back, sharp suits that probably cost more than his monthly rent, and eyes that seemed to see through every excuse before you'd finished making it. "I'm not curious," Logan said, which was close enough to the truth that he didn't feel bad about it. Marcus shook his head. "You're weird, Reed. You know that?" "You've mentioned it. 7 o'clock, top floor. At least think about it." Logan watched him go, then turned back to his computer screen. The logistics report swam in front of his eyes, numbers and routes blurring together into meaningless patterns. He wasn't going to the party. He had 100 reasons not to. Emma's bedtime routine. The fact that he'd have to explain to his 7-year-old why Daddy was going out when he never went out. The uncomfortable reality that he didn't own a suit that fit anymore, and the one hanging in his closet still had a coffee stain on the lapel from Emma's last science fair. And the less practical reason, the one he wouldn't admit to Marcus or anyone else. He didn't want to see Isabella Vaughn in a social setting because he'd spent 3 years perfecting the art of not thinking about her in any setting that wasn't strictly professional. What? Daddy, you're making the eggs wrong. Logan blinked, focusing on the pan in front of him. The eggs had gone from scrambled to something closer to rubber while he'd been staring at nothing. Sorry, sweet pea. He scraped them onto a plate anyway. Emma would eat them. She always did, even when he burned things or forgot the salt or served cereal for dinner because he was too tired to think straight. Emma sat at their small kitchen table, backpack already on, hair pulled into the kind of ponytail that looked neat from the front but would probably fall apart by lunchtime. She looked at the eggs with the skeptical expression she'd inherited from her mother. Were you thinking about work stuff again? Maybe. You think about work stuff a lot. Logan set the plate in front of her and dropped into the chair across from her. Their apartment wasn't much. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that barely fit a table for 2. But it was clean, and it was safe, and it was theirs. That was enough. Someone asked if I wanted to go to a party, he said. Emma's eyes widened. A party? Like with cake? Not that kind of party. A work party. Oh. She stabbed at the eggs with her fork. Do you want to go? Did he? Logan wasn't sure anymore. There was wanting something, and then there was admitting you wanted it, and the space between those two things felt impossibly wide. I don't know, he said honestly. Mom used to like parties. The statement landed between them like it always did. Careful, quiet, just a fact. Emma had been 4 when Sarah died. A brain aneurysm that no one saw coming, that took her from perfectly healthy to gone in less than 18 hours. 3 years later, Emma's memories of her mother came in fragments. A laugh, a perfume, a feeling more than a complete picture. She did, Logan agreed. Maybe you should go. You could tell me about it. Maybe. But he wouldn't. They both knew it. Logan Reed didn't go to parties. He went to work, came home, made dinner, helped with homework, read bedtime stories, and started over the next day. It was a life built on routine and careful choices, and it worked because he never deviated from it. Except sometimes when he was alone after Emma went to bed, he'd think about Isabella Vaughn stepping into that elevator, the way her eyes had flickered to him for half a second before she'd looked away. The way her voice sounded in video calls, confident and clear, never hesitating. The way she moved through the lobby like she owned every inch of space around her because she did. And he'd wonder what it would be like to be the kind of person who could stand in the same room as someone like that and not feel like he was pretending to belong. Logan was still thinking about it at 5:30 when he shut down his computer. Still thinking about it when Marcus caught up with him at the elevator. You're not coming, are you? Nope. Come on, man. 1 hour. Show your face, have a drink, leave. Nobody's asking you to dance on tables. I said no, Marcus. The elevator doors opened. Logan stepped inside, but Marcus caught the door before it closed. Look, I get it. You've got responsibilities. But you know what I think? I think you're scared. Logan's jaw tightened. Of what? Of having a life outside of being someone's dad. The words hit harder than Marcus probably meant them to. Logan stared at him, something hot and uncomfortable rising in his chest. My kid is my life, he said quietly. I know, and that's great. But you're also a person, Logan, and people are allowed to have more than one thing. The elevator started beeping. Marcus let the door go, stepping back with a shrug. 7 o'clock, top floor. If you change your mind. He didn't change his mind. He put Emma to bed at 8:30 after reading 3 chapters of the book they were working through. Something about a girl who found a magical library. Emma fell asleep before the 3rd chapter finished, her breathing evening out into the soft rhythm that meant she was really out. Logan sat on the edge of her bed for a moment, watching her. She looked so much like Sarah when she slept. Same nose, same way of curling on her side with one hand tucked under her cheek. He stood carefully, turning off the lamp and pulling the door mostly closed behind him. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Logan made it to the living room before he admitted what he'd been trying not to think about all day. He wanted to go to that party, not because of the open bar or the socializing or any normal reason. He wanted to go because Marcus was right. He was scared. Scared of wanting something that wasn't about Emma or survival or keeping everything carefully controlled. And he was scared because he knew exactly what he wanted. He wanted to see if Isabella Vaughn ever smiled at anything that wasn't a profit margin. Bossum. Logan looked at his phone. 8:45. The party had been going for almost 2 hours. If he went now, he could slip in, stay for 30 minutes, leave before anyone really noticed. His neighbor, Mrs. Caldwell, owed him a favor after he'd fixed her garbage disposal last month. He could ask. She'd probably say yes. Before he could talk himself out of it, he knocked on her door. 10 minutes later, he was in his car, wearing the suit with the coffee stain covered by a strategically positioned pocket square, telling himself this was stupid and reckless and completely out of character. But he was going anyway. The top floor of Meridian Industries looked different at night. During the day, it was all efficiency, glass walls, modern furniture, the constant hum of productivity. At night, with the lights dimmed and music playing softly through speakers Logan couldn't see, it looked almost elegant. Someone had hung white lights along the windows, and the view of the city stretched out below, all glittering and vast. Logan stepped off the elevator and immediately regretted coming. There were too many people, too much noise, too many conversations happening at once. He recognized faces from other departments, people he'd seen in passing but never spoken to. Marcus was by the bar, already deep in conversation with someone from accounting. Logan started to turn back toward the elevator. "Logan Reed." He froze. The voice came from his left, low, clear, with the kind of precision that made his name sound like a complete sentence. He turned. Isabella Vaughn stood 3 feet away, holding a glass of wine and looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Up close, she was different than he'd expected. Smaller, somehow, though she still had the kind of presence that made the space around her feel charged. Her hair was down, falling past her shoulders in dark waves. She wasn't wearing one of her sharp suits. Instead, a simple black dress that probably cost more than his car payment, but looked almost understated. "Miss Vaughn," he managed, "you're in logistics." It wasn't a question. Logan tried to remember if they'd ever actually spoken directly. He was pretty sure they hadn't. "Yes, ma'am." "Don't call me ma'am. It makes me feel ancient." She took a sip of wine, her eyes never leaving his face. "You've worked here 3 years." "That's right." "And you've never been to a company event before?" "No." "Why tonight?" Logan had prepared exactly 0 answers for this conversation, mostly because he'd never imagined having it. His mind went blank, then scrambled for something that didn't sound pathetic. "Someone told me you might actually smile," he said before he could stop himself. Isabella's expression didn't change for a long moment. Then something flickered in her eyes, surprise, maybe, or amusement. Her mouth curved slightly at one corner. "Did they? It was meant as a compliment to you. The smiling part." "Was it?" Logan felt heat creeping up his neck. This was a disaster. He'd been here less than 5 minutes, and he'd already managed to insult the CEO of the company. "I should—" He gestured vaguely toward the elevator. "Stay," Isabella said. Not an order exactly, but not quite a suggestion either. "I don't know anyone here either. You're the CEO." "That's precisely why I don't know anyone." She turned slightly, looking out at the party with an expression that might have been weariness. "Everyone's very polite, very professional, very careful not to say anything that might be real." Logan didn't know what to say to that. It felt too honest, too unguarded for someone who supposedly had ice in her veins. "I read your report on the shipping route optimization," Isabella said, still looking at the crowd. "Last month." "You did?" "It was smart. You saved the company about $40,000 in unnecessary mileage. Just doing my job. Most people do their job adequately. You did it well." She looked at him again, and this time Logan met her eyes. They were dark brown, almost black in the dim light, and there was something in them he couldn't quite name. "Why haven't we talked before?" "Because I'm in logistics, and you're the CEO." "That's not a good reason." "It's the most obvious one." "Obvious doesn't mean good." Logan felt like he was in a conversation that was happening on two levels at once. The surface one, where they were talking about reports and job titles, and something underneath that he didn't have the vocabulary for. "Why did you really come tonight?" Isabella asked. And because Logan was tired and off balance and standing in front of a woman who looked at him like she actually wanted an answer instead of a pleasant deflection, he told the truth. "Because I wanted to see if you were real." Isabella went very still. "Real. Everyone has theories about you, what you're like, what you think about, whether you're—" He caught himself, but not fast enough. "Whether I'm human?" Isabella finished softly. "I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did, and you're right to wonder. I've worked very hard to make sure no one sees anything I don't want them to see." She set her wine glass on a nearby table with careful precision. "But you see me anyway, don't you?" The question hung between them, dangerous and electric. Logan should have said no, should have made an excuse, found Marcus, left before this conversation went any further into territory he didn't know how to navigate. Instead, he said, "Yes, ye." They talked for an hour, not about work, about nothing and everything. Isabella asked about Emma, and Logan found himself telling stories he usually kept private. The time Emma tried to make him breakfast and set off the smoke alarm. The way she insisted on reading him a bedtime story instead of the other way around because she said he looked tired. How she'd asked if her mom was proud of them, and Logan had said yes even though he had no idea if it was true. Isabella listened like every word mattered. Not the way people usually listened, with one eye on the clock or their phone or the next person they needed to talk to. She listened like she had nowhere else to be, like this moment was the only thing that existed. And she told him things too, about her parents, who had built the company from nothing and expected her to do the same. About business school, where she'd learned that showing weakness was the same as admitting failure. About the loneliness of being good at something everyone expected you to be perfect at. "Do you know what the worst part is?" she asked. They'd migrated to the windows, away from the crowd. The party continued behind them, but it felt distant, irrelevant. "It's not the pressure. It's not the responsibility. It's that I spent so many years convincing everyone I didn't need anyone that I think I convinced myself too." Logan looked at her, really looked, and he saw what no one else seemed to see, the exhaustion hidden behind perfect posture, the uncertainty underneath the confidence, the human being inside the armor. "You're not what people think," he said. "Neither are you." "I'm exactly what people think. A single dad who works in logistics and barely makes rent. You're more than that." "How would you know?" Isabella smiled, a real smile this time, small but genuine. "Because you're standing here talking to me like I'm a person instead of a title. Do you know how rare that is?" Logan didn't have an answer for that. The party was winding down. People were starting to leave, gathering coats and saying goodbyes. Logan knew he should go too. Mrs. Caldwell would start charging him by the hour soon, but he didn't want to leave. For the first time in 3 years, he was standing in a room with someone who looked at him and saw more than just a father barely keeping his head above water. "I should go," he said anyway. "Should you?" "Emma's with a neighbor. I can't—" "I know." Isabella reached out, her fingers brushing his wrist so lightly he almost thought he imagined it. "Thank you for staying, for talking to me like I'm real." Logan's throat felt tight. "You are real." "Sometimes I forget." He wanted to say more, wanted to ask if this was just a moment or if it could be something else. But the elevator dinged and reality crashed back in. She was the CEO and he was nobody, and whatever this was, it couldn't be anything more. "Good night, Ms. Vaughn." "Isabella," she corrected softly. "When it's just us, call me Isabella." Logan nodded, not trusting himself to speak, and headed for the elevator. He made it halfway across the floor before she called after him. "Logan?" He turned. Isabella stood by the windows, the city lights behind her making her look almost unreal. Her expression was unguarded in a way that made his chest ache. "Meet me tomorrow," she said. 3 o'clock. Riverside Park, by the fountain. If you want to." "Why?" "Because I don't want this to be the last time we talk like human beings." Logan knew he should say no. Knew that meeting the CEO of his company in a park, like they were friends or something more, was the kind of decision that came with consequences he couldn't predict. But he'd already broken every rule tonight. What was one more? "I'll be there," he said. And Isabella smiled, a real, full smile that transformed her entire face and made Logan understand why people called her the Ice Queen, because ice only meant something when it melted. Logan drove home in a daze. Mrs. Caldwell was asleep on his couch when he got back, the TV playing softly. He paid her double what they'd agreed on, thanked her profusely, and locked the door behind her. Emma was still asleep, her door still cracked open, exactly how he'd left it. Logan sat on his own bed, still wearing the suit with the hidden coffee stain, and tried to process what had just happened. He'd gone to a party. He'd talked to Isabella Vaughn for an hour, and now he was meeting her tomorrow like it was the most natural thing in the world. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Isabella. Marcus gave me your number. I hope that's okay. I just wanted to make sure you made it home safely." Logan stared at the message. Isabella Vaughn, CEO of Meridian Industries, was texting him to make sure he got home okay. He typed back, deleted it, typed again. "Home safe. Emma's still asleep. Thanks for checking." The response came almost immediately. "Tell her good night from me. See you tomorrow." Logan set his phone down and lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling. 3 years. 3 years of keeping his head down, staying invisible, building a life that was small and safe and completely predictable. And now Isabella Vaughn knew his daughter's name and was waiting for him in a park tomorrow, and Logan had absolutely no idea what he was supposed to do with any of it. But somewhere under the confusion and fear and absolute certainty that this was a terrible idea, there was something else, something that felt dangerously close to hope. Logan didn't sleep. He lay in bed watching the ceiling fan turn slow circles, his mind replaying the conversation with Isabella on an endless loop. Every word, every look, every moment when the noise of the party had faded and it had just been the two of them by those windows. At 5:30, he gave up and got out of bed. Emma found him in the kitchen an hour later, staring at a cup of coffee he'd forgotten to drink. "You look weird," she announced, climbing into her chair. "Good morning to you too." "No, really, you look like you're thinking about something big." She tilted her head, studying him with the kind of intensity only 7-year-olds could manage before breakfast. "Did something happen at the party?" Logan poured cereal into her bowl, buying himself a few seconds. "I talked to some people." "Was there cake?" "No cake." "Then what's the point of a party?" He couldn't help smiling. "Good question." Emma ate her cereal slowly, watching him the whole time. Logan knew that look. She was working up to something. "Daddy?" "Yeah?" "Are you going somewhere today?" His hand froze on his coffee mug. "Why do you ask?" "Because you keep looking at your phone like you're waiting for something." She pointed her spoon at him. "And you never look at your phone when we're eating breakfast. You always say breakfast is family time." Logan set his phone face down on the table. "You're too observant. Mrs. Patterson says that's a good thing." "Mrs. Patterson is your teacher. She has to say nice things." "She also said you look tired when you pick me up. Is that a nice thing?" "Emma." "I'm just saying." She went back to her cereal. "If you need to go somewhere, I can go to Mia's house. Her mom already invited me for a play date." Logan looked at his daughter, this small person who somehow noticed everything he tried to hide. 3 years. 3 years of it being just the two of them, figuring things out together, building a life that worked because they were a team, and now he was thinking about meeting a woman in a park like he was 25 and didn't have a whole human being depending on him to make good decisions. "I might have plans this afternoon," he said carefully. Emma's eyes lit up. "Like a date?" "No, just meeting someone." "Someone from the party?" "Emma, is it a lady someone or a guy someone?" Logan rubbed his face. "When did you get so nosy?" "I'm not nosy. I'm interested in your life." She said it with perfect seriousness, like she was 40 instead of 7. "Mom would want me to make sure you're okay." The statement landed like it always did, gentle but heavy, a reminder that Sarah was gone but somehow still present in every decision they made. "I'm okay," Logan said quietly. "Then you should go meet your someone." Emma finished her cereal and carried her bowl to the sink like she'd just solved all his problems. "I'll call Mia's mom and tell her yes." You're 7. You don't call people. Then you call her. I'll text Mia on your phone. Logan wanted to argue, but Emma was already pulling on her backpack, ready for school, acting like this whole thing was settled. And maybe it was. Maybe his 7-year-old daughter understood something he was still trying to figure out, that it was okay to want something that wasn't just about survival. Work was impossible. Logan sat at his desk, pretending to analyze freight schedules while his brain refused to focus on anything except the fact that in 4 hours, he was meeting Isabella Vaughn in a park. Marcus appeared at his cubicle at 11:30. You look like hell. Thanks. You came last night. Logan didn't look up from his screen. For an hour. An hour of talking to Vaughn, by the windows, where everyone could see you. Now Logan looked up. What's that supposed to mean? Marcus held up his hands. Nothing, just saying people noticed. People need to mind their business. People work in an office. Minding other people's business is literally half the job description. Marcus sat on the edge of Logan's desk, lowering his voice. Look, I'm not trying to start something, but you should know that Karen from HR was there, and she was watching you two like it was her personal reality show. Logan's stomach tightened. We were just talking. I know that, you know that, but Karen from HR sees CEO talking to junior employee for an hour and starts thinking about liability and fraternization policies. There's no fraternization. We had a conversation. At a party. Where alcohol was involved. Where you looked at her like... Marcus stopped himself. Like what? Like she wasn't your boss. Marcus said it quietly, without judgment. And she looked at you the same way. Logan's hands curled into fists under his desk. You're seeing things that aren't there. Am I? Because I've worked with you for 3 years, and I've never seen you look at anyone like that. Not once. There's nothing happening. Okay. Marcus stood up, but he didn't look convinced. Just be careful. That's all I'm saying. The company has rules about this stuff for a reason. After he left, Logan sat very still, staring at his computer screen without seeing it. Fraternization policies. HR investigations. The kind of complications that could cost him his job, his insurance, the stability Emma needed. He should cancel. Text Isabella right now and say something came up. He couldn't make it. Maybe this was a bad idea anyway. His phone buzzed. Still meeting at 3? No pressure if you changed your mind. Logan looked at the message for a long time. Isabella had given him an out. All he had to do was take it. Instead, he typed back, I'll be there. Riverside Park was mostly empty on a Tuesday afternoon. Logan arrived at 2:50, early enough to feel stupid for being early, but too anxious to wait in his car any longer. The fountain sat in the center of a circular plaza, water trickling down 3 tiers into a shallow pool. A few people walked by with dogs or strollers, but no one paid him any attention. He checked his phone. 2:53. What was he doing? This wasn't him. Logan Reed didn't meet women in parks in the middle of the afternoon. He didn't text CEOs late at night or think about someone's smile while he was supposed to be working. He started to turn around, to leave before this went any further. You're early. Isabella stood 10 feet away, wearing jeans and a gray sweater that made her look completely different from the woman in the black dress last night. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she had sunglasses pushed up on her head even though the sky was overcast. She looked nervous. So are you, Logan said. I've been sitting in my car for 20 minutes trying to decide if this was insane. What did you decide? That it probably is. But I'm here anyway. She walked closer, stopping a careful distance away. Not close enough to touch, but close enough that Logan could see the uncertainty in her eyes. Thank you for coming. You said 3 o'clock. I'm not in the habit of standing people up. No, I imagine you're not. Isabella looked around the park like she was seeing it for the first time. I haven't been here in years. I used to come here when I first moved back to the city, before everything got so complicated. What changed? I did. Or maybe the city did. I'm not sure anymore. She turned back to him. Do you want to walk? They started along the path that circled the park, keeping that careful distance between them. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. Logan tried to think of something to say that wouldn't sound ridiculous. Isabella beat him to it. I spent 3 hours this morning in a board meeting debating whether to cut healthcare benefits to save 2% on operational costs. I said no. They pushed back. I pushed harder. And the whole time all I could think about was whether you'd actually show up. Logan glanced at her. Why? Because I gave you 12 hours to realize that meeting your boss in a park was a terrible idea. And terrible ideas usually look a lot worse in daylight. It still looks pretty terrible. But you came anyway. Yeah. Why? Logan stopped walking. They were near a bench under a tree that hadn't lost all its leaves yet. The fountain was visible in the distance, and the city skyline rose beyond it, all glass and steel and ambition. Because I've spent 3 years building a life that works, he said. And it does work. Emma's healthy and happy. I've got a job that pays the bills. We're safe. But last night, talking to you, I realized that working and safe aren't the same thing as living. Isabella's expression shifted into something that looked like pain. Logan, I'm not saying this to make you feel guilty. I'm saying it because you asked me why I came. And the truth is, I came because for 1 hour last night, I felt like a person instead of just a father who's barely holding everything together. You're not barely holding it together. You're doing an incredible job. How would you know? Because Emma has a father who shows up. Who cares? Who puts her first even when it costs him? Isabella's voice wavered slightly. Do you know how rare that is? Logan looked at her. This woman who everyone thought was made of ice and ambition and nothing else. What did your parents do to you? The question came out harsher than he meant it, but Isabella didn't flinch. They gave me every opportunity, paid for the best schools, introduced me to the right people, taught me how to run a company. She sat down on the bench, suddenly looking exhausted. And they forgot to teach me how to be a person who existed outside of those things. Logan sat beside her, leaving a foot of space between them. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. Isabella pulled her knees up, wrapping her arms around them in a gesture that made her look younger, more vulnerable. My father built Meridian from nothing. My mother kept the books and managed every crisis. They were a team. They were also married to the company more than to each other. I grew up thinking that was normal, that success meant sacrifice, that needing people was the same as being weak. That's lonely. Yes, the word came out small, but lonely felt manageable. Lonely felt like something I could control. And then you showed up at that party looking like you'd rather be anywhere else, and I asked you why you came, and you said, I wanted to see if you were real. No one has ever said anything like that to me before. Isabella turned her head, looking at him with those dark eyes that seemed to see through every defense he'd ever built. Everyone wants something from me. They want approval or advancement or access, but you just wanted to see if I was human. Logan's throat felt tight. You are human. I forget sometimes. I've spent so many years making sure no one sees me as anything other than competent that I think I stopped seeing myself as anything else. They sat in silence for a moment. A woman jogged past with a dog. A kid on a skateboard rolled by in the distance. The world kept moving while Logan tried to figure out what he was supposed to do with the fact that Isabella Vaughn was sitting next to him looking more lost than anyone with her kind of power should ever look. My wife died 3 years ago, he said suddenly. Isabella's head turned toward him. Brain aneurysm. She was fine one day, and the next day she was in the hospital, and 18 hours later she was gone. Emma was 4. I was 29. And I had no idea how to be a single parent or pay a mortgage or do any of the things Sarah had always handled because I'd been too busy working overtime to notice. I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry. Sorry doesn't change anything. Logan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I had to learn everything from scratch. How to do Emma's hair, how to pack lunches that wouldn't get traded away, how to answer questions about death from someone who still believed in Santa Claus. And somewhere in all of that, I learned how to be invisible. Because invisible meant safe, meant no one would ask questions I couldn't answer or expect things I couldn't give. You're not invisible to me, Logan laughed, but it came out bitter. That's the problem. Why is it a problem? Because you're my boss. Because there are rules about this. Because Marcus already warned me that people noticed us talking last night and HR might have concerns. He turned to look at her. Because I have a daughter who depends on me to make smart decisions, and this doesn't feel smart. Isabella was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady but sad. Then we should stop, right here. We'll go back to being CEO and logistics employee. Professional, distant, safe. Yeah, we should. Neither of them moved. Logan? What? I don't want to stop. The admission hung between them, dangerous and honest. Logan closed his eyes. Me neither. Then what do we do? I have no idea. Isabella laughed, a real laugh that sounded surprised and slightly desperate. That's not reassuring. I'm not good at reassuring. I'm good at spreadsheets and freight routes and making sure Emma has clean clothes for school. I'm not good at whatever this is. Neither am I. I'm good at board meetings and strategic planning and making sure no one sees me sweat. I'm terrible at everything else. Logan opened his eyes and looked at her. We're a mess. Yes. This is probably the worst idea either of us has had in years. Definitely. So what do we do? Isabella reached over, her hand hovering just above his for a moment before she let it drop. We could be honest, just for a while, just to see what happens. Honest about what? About the fact that I haven't stopped thinking about you since last night. About the fact that I texted you to make sure you got home safe because the thought of not knowing made me anxious. About the fact that I've been the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company for 2 years, and I've never been as scared as I was waiting for you to show up today. Logan stared at her. Isabella. I know it's crazy. I know there are rules and complications and 1,000 reasons why this is impossible, but I'm tired of pretending I don't feel something when I do. What do you feel? Like I'm finally awake after spending years asleep. Logan's hands were shaking. He pressed them against his knees, trying to steady himself. I can't lose my job. Emma's insurance, her school, everything depends on that job. If this goes wrong, then we'll be careful. We'll keep it private. We'll make sure no one has a reason to question anything. Is that even possible? I don't know, but I'd like to try. Logan thought about Marcus's warning, about Karen from HR watching them at the party, about Emma asking if he was going on a date like it was the most natural thing in the world. He thought about 3 years of being invisible, of choosing safety over everything else, of building a life that worked but never felt full. And he thought about Isabella sitting next to him right now, looking at him like he was the one person who could make her feel human again. Okay, he said. Okay. We'll try. But we do this smart. No one at work knows. We don't meet at the office. We're careful. Agreed. And if it starts affecting Emma or my job, we stop. No argument. I understand. Logan looked at her, this woman who should have been completely out of his league, who was somehow sitting on a bench in a park asking him to take a chance on something impossible. Why me? He asked quietly. Isabella smiled, that small, genuine smile that transformed her whole face. Because you see me. Not the title, or the company, or what I'm supposed to be. Just me. And I haven't been just me in a very long time. They stayed in the park for another hour. They talked about everything and nothing. Emma's obsession with space documentaries, Isabella's terrible habit of working until midnight, Logan's failed attempt to learn guitar, Isabella's secret love of trashy reality TV that no one at work would ever believe. It felt normal. Easy. Like they were just 2 people getting to know each other instead of a CEO and an employee breaking about a dozen company policies. At 4:30, Isabella's phone buzzed with what Logan assumed was her 10th work emergency of the day. She looked at it, made a face, and silenced it. You should probably get that, Logan said. It can wait. Can it? No, but I'm pretending it can. She stood up anyway, brushing off her jeans. I have a video call with investors at 5. If I miss it, they'll think I've lost my mind. Have you? Probably. She looked down at him, and there was something in her expression that made his chest tight. When can I see you again? I don't know. Emma's got school, and I can't just... I'm not asking you to drop everything. I'm just asking when. Logan stood up. They were close now, closer than they'd been all afternoon. He could smell her perfume, something subtle and expensive that he'd probably never be able to forget. Friday night, he said. Emma's got a sleepover at her friend's house. I'm free after 7. Friday, 7. Isabella nodded like she was confirming a business meeting. Where? Not anywhere public. Not where someone from work might see us. My place, then. Logan's eyebrows rose. Your place? I have a private entrance. No doorman to report back to the office gossip chain. We can order food, watch a movie, just talk. She paused. Is that okay? It should have sounded presumptuous. Should have felt like too much too fast. But the way Isabella said it, careful, hopeful, slightly nervous, made it sound like exactly what it was. An invitation to spend time together without the whole world watching. Okay, Logan said. Send me the address. I will. Isabella reached out, her fingers brushing against his for just a second. The touch was brief, barely there, but it sent electricity up his arm. Thank you for being here today. Stop thanking me. I wanted to be here. I know. That's why I'm thanking you. She walked away before he could respond, heading toward the parking lot without looking back. Logan watched her go. This woman who ran a company with perfect confidence but walked away from him like she wasn't sure her legs would carry her. His phone buzzed. A text from Emma, sent from Mia's mom's phone. Having fun. Mia's mom says I can stay for dinner. That okay? Logan smiled and typed back a yes, then stood in the park for another 10 minutes, trying to figure out what he'd just agreed to. A careful relationship with his boss. Secret meetings, the kind of thing that could blow up his entire life if anyone found out. And he was doing it anyway. Because for the first time since Sarah died, he felt like something other than a father barely surviving. He felt like Logan, just Logan, and that feeling was worth almost any risk. Almost. Accepté. The rest of the week passed in a strange blur. At work, Logan kept his head down even harder than usual. He arrived early, left on time, and avoided anywhere Isabella might be. They didn't text except for one message on Wednesday where she sent him her address and he responded with a thumbs up because words felt too dangerous. Marcus caught him staring at his phone on Thursday. You good? Fine. You've been weird all week. I'm always weird. Weirder than usual. Marcus leaned against the cubicle wall. This isn't about what I said, is it? About Vaughn? Logan kept his eyes on his computer. There's nothing to be about. Good, because I heard Karen from HR was asking around about who talked to who at the party. Apparently someone complained that the open bar was a liability. Logan's hand stopped moving. Who complained? No idea. But you know how it is. Someone always finds something to be concerned about. Marcus pushed off the wall. Anyway, just thought you should know. Keep your nose clean. After he left, Logan sat very still, anxiety coiling in his stomach. Someone was asking questions. Someone was concerned. And if they started digging into who talked to who at the party, it wouldn't take long to figure out that he and Isabella had spent an hour together. He pulled out his phone and typed out a message, then deleted it, typed it again, deleted it again. Finally, he just wrote, "Still good for tomorrow?" Isabella's response came 5 minutes later. "Yes, unless you're having second thoughts. Just making sure we're being smart about this. We are. I promise. See you tomorrow." Logan stared at the message for a long time. She was the CEO. She had more to lose than he did. If she thought they could do this safely, he should trust her. But trust was hard when your whole life depended on not making mistakes. Friday arrived with cold rain that made the city look gray and miserable. Logan dropped Emma at Mia's house at 6:30, listened to both girls squeal about their plans to stay up all night watching movies, and promised Mia's mom he'd pick Emma up by 10 the next morning. Then he drove to the address Isabella had sent him, his heart doing things it hadn't done since he was a teenager. She lived in a building downtown that looked like it cost more per month than Logan made in a year. The private entrance she'd mentioned was around the side, marked by a keypad and a camera. Logan pressed the buzzer. "It's me," he said when the intercom crackled. The door unlocked with a soft click. Inside was a small hallway with an elevator. Logan stepped in, pressed the button for the 12th floor, and tried not to think about how much his hands were shaking. The elevator opened directly into Isabella's apartment. She was waiting for him, wearing jeans and a sweater that looked soft and worn, her hair down around her shoulders. The apartment behind her was all windows and clean lines. decorated in whites and grays that somehow managed to look warm instead of sterile. "Hi," she said. "Hi." They stood there for a moment, neither quite sure what to do now that they were here, alone, without the park or other people or any buffer between them. Isabella broke first. "I ordered Thai food. I hope that's okay. I didn't know what you liked, so I got a little of everything." "Thai's good." "The food should be here in 20 minutes. Do you want something to drink?" "I have wine, beer, water, probably some juice somewhere." "Isabella." She stopped talking. "You're nervous," Logan said. "I'm terrified." "Why?" "Because I haven't done this in—" She gestured vaguely. "I don't even know how long. Years. And I'm realizing I have no idea what I'm doing." Logan stepped further into the apartment, letting the elevator close behind him. "We're just two people having dinner." "Are we? Do you want to be more than that?" Isabella looked at him, and there was something raw in her expression that made his breath catch. "I don't know what I want, but I know I wanted you here. And now you're here, and I'm so scared I'm going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or—" Logan crossed the space between them and took her hand. It was the first time they'd really touched. Not a brush of fingers or an accidental collision, but deliberate contact. Her hand was smaller than his, colder, and it trembled slightly. "We don't have to figure everything out tonight," he said quietly. "We can just see what happens." Isabella's fingers tightened around his. "What if what happens is a disaster?" "Then it's a disaster, but at least we'll know." She laughed, shaky and uncertain. "That's not as comforting as you think it is. I'm not good at comforting, remember?" "Right, you're good at spreadsheets. And making sure Emma has clean clothes. Very important skills." They stood there, hands linked, neither willing to let go first. The intercom buzzed. Thai food. Isabella pulled away slowly, like breaking contact took effort, and went to get the delivery. Logan looked around the apartment properly for the first time. Everything was expensive, but not showy. Books lined one wall, business texts mixed with fiction he wouldn't have expected. A single plant sat by the window, thriving despite the gray weather outside. There were no photos, no personal touches that would tell him anything about who Isabella was when she wasn't being the CEO. It was the apartment of someone who lived alone and had gotten used to it. "I know it's not exactly warm," Isabella said, coming back with bags of food. "I haven't figured out how to make it feel like home yet." "How long have you lived here?" 2 years, since I took over as CEO." She set the food on the dining table, a sleek glass surface that looked like it had never seen a real meal. "Before that, I was in a smaller place. It felt more like mine. This feels like someone else's idea of what my apartment should look like." They unpacked the food together, creating a spread of curry and noodles and spring rolls that smelled amazing. Isabella grabbed plates and silverware, moving around her kitchen with the kind of efficiency that suggested she didn't cook much. They sat across from each other, and for a few minutes, they just ate. The food was good. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. And Logan realized that this, sitting across from someone sharing a meal, was something he hadn't done in 3 years that didn't involve eating pizza on the couch with Emma. "Tell me about her," Isabella said suddenly. Logan looked up. "Who?" "Emma. Tell me what she's like." So he did. He told her about Emma's obsession with learning everything about space, how she'd memorized all the planets by age 5 and had recently decided she wanted to be an astronaut. He told her about the way Emma still slept with the stuffed rabbit Sarah had given her when she was born, about how she'd inherited Sarah's laugh and Logan's stubbornness, about the time she'd tried to adopt a stray cat and cried for 3 days when the shelter found it a different home. Isabella listened with complete attention, asking questions that showed she was really hearing him, not just waiting for her turn to talk. "She sounds wonderful," Isabella said when he finally ran out of stories. "She is. She's better than I deserve." "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Act like you're not enough. Emma has a father who loves her and shows up and puts her first. That's more than a lot of kids get." Logan set down his fork. "What about you? What did you get?" Isabella's expression shifted into something guarded. "I got everything. Private schools, expensive tutors, connections that open doors." "That's not what I asked." She was quiet for a moment, pushing food around her plate. "I got parents who loved the idea of me more than the actual person I was. I got expectations that felt impossible, and a life that looked perfect from the outside. And I got very good at pretending that was enough. Was it? No. The word hung between them, honest and painful. I don't have close friends, Isabella continued. Everyone I know is either a business contact or someone who wants something from me. I don't date because the kind of men I meet are interested in what I represent, not who I am, and I tell myself that's fine, that I chose this life, that success is its own reward. But then you showed up and looked at me like I was real, and I realized how desperately lonely I've been. Logan's throat felt tight. Isabella. I'm sorry, that's too much. I shouldn't. Stop apologizing. He reached across the table, covering her hand with his. You're allowed to be lonely. You're allowed to want more than what you have. So are you. I know. They sat like that, hands touching across the glass table, the city lights beyond the windows making everything feel suspended in time. What are we doing? Isabella asked softly. I think we're trying to figure out if this thing between us is real or just two lonely people wanting something that makes sense. And if it's real, then we figure out how to make it work without destroying everything else. That sounds hard. Yeah. Logan squeezed her hand gently. But I think you might be worth it. Isabella's eyes got bright, like she might cry, and Logan realized he'd never seen her this unguarded, this open. The Ice Queen everyone talked about was nowhere in sight. This was just Isabella, scared and hopeful and trying so hard to be brave. You might be worth it too, she whispered. They finished dinner slowly, talking about easier things. Work stories that didn't involve feelings. Books they'd read. Places they'd traveled. The normal getting-to-know-you conversation that people had when they were figuring out if they fit together. And they did fit. Surprisingly well. Isabella had a dry sense of humor that caught Logan off guard. He made her laugh with stories about Emma's more dramatic moments. They argued about movies and agreed about music and found comfort in the rhythm of conversation that felt natural despite everything complicated surrounding it. At 10:30, Logan checked his phone and realized he should go. Should leave before this turned into something neither of them was ready for. He stood up. I should head out. Isabella walked him to the elevator, and they stood in that small hallway, neither wanting to end the night but neither sure how to make it last longer. Thank you for coming, Isabella said. Thank you for inviting me. Can we do this again? Yeah, I'd like that. The elevator dinged, doors opening. Logan stepped inside, then turned back. Isabella was watching him with an expression that made his chest ache. Isabella? Yes? This is real. For me. I don't know what it means or where it goes, but it's real. Her smile was small and genuine and completely worth every risk he was taking. For me too. The elevator doors closed between them, and Logan rode down to street level, feeling like he'd just jumped off something very high, with no idea if there was anything to catch him. But for the first time in 3 years, he didn't mind falling. The rumor started on Monday. Logan noticed it first in the way conversation stopped when he walked past. The quick glances that people tried to hide. Marcus avoiding eye contact during the morning logistics meeting. By Tuesday, he knew something was wrong. Reed, my office, now. Karen Mitchell stood at his cubicle, her HR badge glinting under the fluorescent lights. She wasn't smiling. Logan's stomach dropped. What's this about? That's what we're going to discuss. She turned and walked toward the elevators without waiting to see if he followed. He followed. Karen's office was on the 8th floor, small and sterile with motivational posters about teamwork that no one believed in. She closed the door behind them and gestured to a chair. Logan sat. His hands were sweating. There's been a complaint, Karen said, settling behind her desk with a folder that looked ominously thick. About what? About your relationship with Ms. Vaughn. The words hit him like cold water. Logan forced himself to stay calm, to not react the way his body wanted to react. I don't have a relationship with Ms. Vaughn. Multiple employees witnessed you spending considerable time together at the holiday party. Witnesses say you were engaged in intimate conversation away from other attendees for over an hour. We were talking. That's not against company policy. It is when there's a significant power differential and the conversation appears to cross professional boundaries. Karen opened the folder, scanning whatever documentation someone had compiled. Then there's the fact that you left the party shortly after she did, that you've been seen checking your phone more frequently at work, that your behavior has been notably different since the party. Logan's jaw tightened. Someone's been watching me? Someone filed a formal complaint expressing concern about potential fraternization between a junior employee and the CEO. I'm required to investigate. There's nothing to investigate. We had a conversation at a party. That's it. Karen looked at him with the kind of patient skepticism that made it clear she'd heard every excuse in the book. Mr. Reed, I'm not trying to trap you. I'm trying to understand the situation. If there's nothing inappropriate happening, then a simple investigation will clear that up. But if there is something happening, it's better for everyone if we address it now. What kind of investigation? Interviews with relevant parties, review of any communications, standard protocol for fraternization concerns. Logan felt like the walls were closing in. You want to go through my phone? Only if it becomes necessary. Right now, I just need you to be honest with me. She leaned forward slightly. Are you involved with Isabella Vaughn in any capacity beyond your professional relationship? The question hung in the air. Logan knew what he should say. Should lie, should protect both of them, should deny everything until this went away. But lying meant more investigations, more questions, more scrutiny. And if they went through his phone and found the texts, found evidence that he'd been to her apartment, the lie would make everything worse. I need to talk to a lawyer, he said. Karen's expression didn't change. That's your right. But I should inform you that refusing to cooperate with an internal investigation can be grounds for disciplinary action. So I'm being punished either way. You're being asked to participate in a process designed to protect both you and the company. Her voice softened slightly. Logan, I've seen your file. You're a good employee. You show up, do your work, stay out of trouble. I don't want this to damage your career, but if there's something happening that violates company policy, it needs to be addressed. Logan stood up. His legs felt shaky, but he made himself stay steady. Am I being suspended? Not at this time, but I need you to refrain from any non-work-related contact with Ms. Vaughn until this investigation is complete. How long will that take? Depends on what we find. Could be a week, could be longer. Logan walked out without another word. The elevator ride back to his floor felt endless. His mind was racing, trying to figure out who had filed the complaint, who had been watching them, how everything had fallen apart so quickly. Marcus was waiting at his desk. Man, I'm sorry. I tried to warn you. Logan looked at him. Was it you? Did you report us? What? No, I wouldn't do that. Marcus glanced around, lowering his voice. But I heard it was someone from the executive floor, someone who was at the party and didn't like what they saw. Who? I don't know. But whoever it is, they're making a lot of noise about inappropriate conduct and abuse of power. Logan sank into his chair. Abuse of power, like Isabella had coerced him into something instead of them both making a choice. His phone buzzed. A text from Isabella. Karen just called me in for questioning. What's happening? Logan stared at the message. He couldn't text her back. Karen had specifically told him no contact, but leaving Isabella in the dark felt wrong. He typed quickly, HR investigation. Someone complained about us. They told me no contact until it's over. Her response came immediately. This is my fault. I should have been more careful. It's both our faults. Or neither. I don't know anymore. Logan, I'm going to fix this. Don't do anything that makes it worse. Trust me. The conversation ended there. Logan deleted the texts, then felt stupid because if HR wanted them, they could probably recover them anyway. He put his head in his hands and tried to think. Emma. He had to think about Emma. If he lost this job, he lost their insurance, lost the stability that let her have a normal life, lost everything he'd spent 3 years building. And for what? A few conversations with a woman he barely knew? A feeling that maybe he could have something more than just survival? His phone rang. Unknown number. Logan almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Reed, this is Jennifer Torres. I'm an attorney with Brennan and Associates. Ms. Vaughn asked me to call you. Logan's heart sank. She hired me a lawyer? She retained our services on your behalf, yes. She's concerned about the investigation and wants to make sure you have proper representation. I can't afford a lawyer. You're not paying. Ms. Vaughn is covering all fees. That's going to look worse, like she's trying to cover something up. Jennifer's voice was calm, professional. Actually, it demonstrates that she takes the situation seriously and wants to ensure all parties are treated fairly. May I ask what you've been told so far? Logan explained the meeting with Karen, the questions about his relationship with Isabella, the demand that they have no contact. That's fairly standard, Jennifer said. But here's what you need to know. You haven't done anything illegal. Company fraternization policies exist, but they're not laws. The worst-case scenario is termination, not criminal charges. And even termination would be difficult for them to justify unless they can prove actual misconduct. What about Isabella? Ms. Vaughn faces more complicated issues given her position, but she's aware of the risks. She could lose her job over this. That's unlikely. She's the CEO. The board would have to vote her out, and they'd need cause. A consensual relationship with an employee, while problematic, doesn't typically rise to that level unless there's evidence of coercion or abuse of power. Logan closed his eyes. There wasn't. There isn't. We just talked. Then that's what you tell HR. Be honest, be clear, and don't embellish. The truth is your best protection here. After the call ended, Logan sat in his cubicle, staring at his computer screen without seeing it. The logistics reports that usually gave him something concrete to focus on looked meaningless. Everything looked meaningless. Marcus appeared again, this time with coffee. Thought you could use this. Thanks. For what it's worth, most people don't think you did anything wrong. They think whoever filed the complaint is just jealous or political or both. That doesn't help me keep my job. No, but it means you've got people in your corner if you need them. Marcus sat on the edge of the desk. What are you going to do? I don't know. Tell the truth and hope it's enough. Is there a truth that doesn't get you both in trouble? Logan looked at him. The truth is we're two adults who talked at a party and liked each other. The truth is we met a couple more times outside of work. The truth is nothing inappropriate happened and no one abused any power. And the truth is also that she's the CEO and you're in logistics and people are going to assume the worst, no matter what actually happened. Yeah. Logan drank the coffee even though it tasted like ash. That's the truth too. The investigation took 3 days. 3 days of people looking at Logan like he was either a victim or a manipulator. No in between. 3 days of Karen calling him back to her office with more questions, more witnesses who'd seen them together, more evidence of something that had felt real and private but now looked suspicious under fluorescent lighting. They interviewed Marcus, who apparently told them Logan was a good guy who wouldn't do anything stupid. They interviewed people from the party who remembered seeing Logan and Isabella by the windows. They even interviewed Logan's supervisor, who said Logan's work performance had been consistent and he'd never noticed any issues. But they also found the texts. Not all of them, but enough. The message about meeting at the park, the confirmation about dinner at Isabella's apartment. Nothing explicit, nothing incriminating, but enough to prove they'd been spending time together outside of work. On Thursday afternoon, Karen called Logan back to her office. He went with Jennifer Torres this time. The lawyer sat beside him, professional and composed, while Karen laid out her findings. The investigation confirms that you and Ms. Vaughn engaged in multiple private meetings outside of work following the holiday party. While there's no evidence of explicit misconduct, the nature of your relationship creates a conflict of interest given the power differential between your positions. What does that mean? Logan asked. It means we need to take action to eliminate the conflict. The board has discussed several options. Jennifer leaned forward. Before you continue, I want to make clear that Mr. Reed has cooperated fully with this investigation. He's been honest about the nature of his relationship with Miss Vaughn, and there's no evidence of any workplace impropriety or abuse of power. Agreed, Karen said, which is why we're not pursuing termination. However, the relationship cannot continue while you're both employed at Meridian Industries. Logan's chest tightened. So one of us has to quit. Or one of you has to transfer. We have an opening in the Eastern Regional Office. Same role, same pay, different reporting structure. You'd be working under a different supervisor with no direct connection to Ms. Vaughn's chain of command. The Eastern office is 2 hours away. Yes. So I'd have to move. Take Emma out of her school. Leave everything we've built here. Karen's expression softened slightly. I understand that's difficult, but the alternative is termination for cause due to policy violation. A transfer allows you to keep your job, your benefits, and your reputation intact. Logan looked at Jennifer. She gave a small nod that said this was probably the best offer he was going to get. What about Isabella? He asked. What happens to her? Ms. Vaughn will receive a formal reprimand on her record. The board has also required her to sign a statement affirming that she'll maintain appropriate professional boundaries with all employees going forward. So she gets a slap on the wrist and I have to uproot my entire life. You're being offered a lateral transfer, not a demotion. Many employees would consider that a positive opportunity. Many employees don't have a 7-year-old daughter who just lost her mother 3 years ago and finally feels stable. The words came out harsher than Logan intended, but he didn't take them back. Karen looked uncomfortable. Jennifer put a hand on his arm. Can we have a moment? Jennifer asked. Karen nodded and left her own office, closing the door behind her. I know this isn't what you want, Jennifer said quietly, but they're giving you an out. Take it. It's not fair. Isabella doesn't have to give up anything. Isabella's paying for this in ways you can't see. The board called an emergency meeting about her judgment. She had to defend herself to people who've been waiting for her to slip up since she took over. And she's losing you, which, from what I understand, matters more than any of the professional consequences. Logan put his head in his hands. This is exactly what I was afraid of. That trying to have something would cost me everything else. You're not losing everything. You're losing proximity. The job is still there. Emma's still there. And if this thing with Isabella is real, distance doesn't change that. How would you know? Because I watched her fight for you for 3 days. She offered to resign if it meant you could keep your position here. The board refused. She threatened to make the whole investigation public if they terminated you without cause. She's been calling me every 4 hours asking if there's anything else she can do. That's not nothing, Logan. He looked up. She offered to resign? She did. The board won't let her because replacing a CEO who's tripled profits in 2 years would be insane. But she tried. Logan felt something crack in his chest. Isabella had been willing to give up everything to protect him. The job she'd built her entire life around. The success everyone expected from her. All of it. For him. I need to talk to her, he said. You can't. The no-contact order stands until one of you leaves Meridian. That's ridiculous. That's corporate policy when there's a potential conflict. Jennifer stood up. Take the transfer, Logan. Keep your job. And when the investigation is officially closed, you can figure out what comes next. Logan signed the transfer paperwork that afternoon. He'd start at the Eastern office in 2 weeks. Enough time to find a new apartment, transfer Emma's school records, and pack up 3 years of life into boxes. He went home and stared at their apartment, trying to figure out how to tell Emma they were moving again. She came home from school with paint on her shirt and a drawing of the solar system she'd made in art class. Mrs. Patterson says I'm really good at planets, she announced, taping the drawing to the refrigerator. She says maybe I will be an astronaut. Logan looked at his daughter, this small person who trusted him to make decisions that wouldn't hurt her. Sweet pea, we need to talk. Emma's smile faded. That sounds like bad talk. It's not bad, it's just change. Logan sat down at their small kitchen table, and Emma climbed into the chair across from him. I got offered a new job. Same company, but different office. Different like different building, or different like different city? Different city, about 2 hours away. Emma's face went through several emotions: surprise, confusion, worry. Do we have to move? Yeah, we do. But I like my school, and Mia's here, and you said we were going to stay in this apartment until I was grown up. I know, and I'm sorry, but sometimes things change even when we don't want them to. Is it because of the lady from the party? Logan's breath caught. What? You've been sad all week, and you keep looking at your phone like you want to text someone but you're not allowed to. Is it because of her? How did 7-year-olds see everything? Logan had tried so hard to keep his problems separate from Emma, to shield her from the complications that came with adult decisions. But she'd noticed anyway. Kind of, he admitted. It's complicated. Did you get in trouble for liking her? Sort of. The people at work think it's a problem that we're friends because she's my boss. Emma thought about this, her face serious. That's dumb. Yeah, it kind of is. Do you love her? The question hit Logan like a punch to the chest. He hadn't let himself think about love. They'd had a few conversations, a couple dinners, moments that felt significant but hadn't been defined. But Emma was asking, and Emma deserved an honest answer. I don't know, he said carefully, but I think I could, and that scared people. Why? Because sometimes when things look different from what people expect, they get uncomfortable, and they make rules to keep everything the same. Emma picked at the edge of the table, processing. I don't want to move. I know. But if we have to move, will we be okay? Logan reached across the table and took her small hand. We'll be okay. We're always okay together. Promise? Promise. Emma nodded slowly, accepting this the way kids did when they trusted their parents to not lie to them. Can I bring all my books? All of them. And can I still video chat with Mia? Every day if you want. Okay. She slid off her chair. I'm going to start packing my room. She walked away, shoulders squared, already preparing for the change Logan had forced on both of them. He sat at the table alone, feeling like the worst father in the world. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Jennifer Torres. Miss Vaughn asked me to tell you she's sorry. She knows what this is costing you, and she wants you to know that if you need anything, help finding an apartment, moving costs, anything, she'll provide it. No strings. Logan stared at the message. Isabella couldn't even contact him directly. Had to go through her lawyer to tell him she was sorry. He typed back, tell her I don't blame her, and tell her I need to see her before I leave. The response came 10 minutes later. She said the same thing. I'll work on making it happen. They met at the park again. Jennifer Torres arranged it, picking a time when they were both technically off the clock so no one could accuse them of meeting on company time. Sunday afternoon, cloudy and cold, barely anyone around. Isabella was already there when Logan arrived. She stood by the fountain wearing a black coat that made her look small against the gray sky. When she saw him, her expression crumbled into something that looked like relief and pain mixed together. They met in the middle of the plaza, stopping a few feet apart. Hi, Isabella said. Hi. Neither moved closer. It felt like there was an invisible line between them now, drawn by HR policies and investigations and the weight of everything that had gone wrong. I'm sorry, Isabella said. Her voice was rough, like she'd been crying. I'm so sorry, Logan. This is my fault. I should have been more careful. I should have... Stop. Logan stepped forward, closing the distance. You didn't do this. Someone else did. Someone who decided what we had was wrong without knowing anything about it. But I'm the CEO. I should have known better. I should have protected you. I'm a grown man. I don't need protecting. I made my own choices. Choices that are costing you everything. Not everything, just proximity. Isabella's eyes were red. I offered to resign. Did Jennifer tell you? She told me. They wouldn't let me. Said it would look like an admission of guilt. Said it would damage the company's reputation more than just disciplining both of us and moving on. She laughed bitterly. Everything I've built, and I can't even fall on my sword properly. I don't want you to fall on your sword. I just want... Logan stopped, not sure how to finish that sentence. What do you want? I want to rewind 3 weeks. I want to not go to that party. I want to keep living my small, safe life where nothing bad happens because nothing good happens either. Do you really want that? Logan looked at her. Isabella was watching him with an expression that was completely open, completely vulnerable. The Ice Queen had melted entirely, leaving only this woman who looked like she'd been hollowed out by guilt and regret. No, he said honestly. I don't want that, but I don't know what I want instead. Do you want me? The question hung between them. Logan thought about Emma packing her room, about leaving the only stability they'd had in 3 years, about starting over again because he'd wanted something more than just survival. And he thought about Isabella sitting in the park looking at him like he was the only person who'd ever seen her as human, about conversations that felt real in a way nothing else had, about the possibility that maybe two broken people could build something together that worked. Yes, he said, I want you. but I don't know if that's enough. What would be enough? Knowing that this was worth it. That we're not just two lonely people making terrible decisions because we're desperate for connection. Isabella flinched. Is that what you think we are? I don't know. We barely know each other. We've had, 3 real conversations? And now I'm moving 2 hours away, and Emma's losing her school and her friends. And I'm trying to figure out if what we have is real, or if I just convinced myself it was because I wanted it to be. It's real for me. How do you know? Because I've spent 3 days fighting for you. Because the board threatened my position and I didn't care. Because I've built my entire life around being perfect and controlled. And now I'm standing in a park crying in front of the one person who was supposed to stay professional. Her voice broke. Because I'm terrified you're going to walk away, and I'll go back to being alone, and I won't survive it this time. Logan's chest ached. Isabella, I know it's not fair to put that on you. I know you have Emma to think about and your job and all the things that matter more than whatever this is between us. But I need you to know that this isn't nothing to me. You're not nothing to me. They stood facing each other, 2 feet apart, close enough to touch but separated by everything that had gone wrong. What do we do? Logan asked quietly. I don't know, but I don't want to give up. Even if it means seeing each other once a month? Even if it means hiding what we have because people are watching for us to slip up? Yes. Even then. Why? Because before you, I forgot what it felt like to want something that wasn't about achievement or success or proving I could do what everyone expected. I forgot that I was allowed to be human, and I don't want to forget again. Logan reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His hand found hers, their fingers lacing together in a gesture that felt both familiar and terrifying. I leave in 2 weeks, he said. I know. We don't talk until then. Investigation's not officially closed. I know. And after that, we're 2 hours apart. Different offices, no overlap. We'd have to make this work with whatever time we can steal. I know. Logan pulled her closer until there was no space between them, until he could feel her trembling against him. This is crazy. Completely insane, Isabella agreed. We're going to fail. Probably. But we're trying anyway? She pulled back just enough to look at him, her dark eyes steady despite the tears. We're trying anyway. Logan kissed her forehead, gentle and careful, the first real physical contact beyond holding hands. Isabella's breath hitched, her hands gripping his jacket like she was afraid he'd disappear. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in a park, while the city moved around them, and the sky threatened rain, and everything about their situation remained completely impossible. But impossible had never stopped either of them before. The 2 weeks passed faster than Logan wanted. He found an apartment near the Eastern office, small but clean, with a second bedroom for Emma. He transferred her school records, set up video chats with Mia, and tried to make the move sound like an adventure instead of a consequence. At work, people whispered, but no one said anything directly. Logan finished his projects, documented his processes for whoever would replace him, and avoided anywhere Isabella might be. He didn't see her again before he left. On his last day, Marcus helped him carry boxes to his car. You're really doing this, Marcus said. No choice. There's always a choice. Not one that lets me keep my job and see her too. Marcus leaned against the car. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Not many people would fight for something real in a world that wants everything to be transactional. I'm not sure we won yet. You're still fighting. That counts for something. Logan drove away from Meridian Industries without looking back. Emma sat in the passenger seat with her stuffed rabbit, watching the city disappear through the window. Are we going to be okay? She asked. Logan reached over and squeezed her hand. Yeah, sweet pea. We're going to be okay. He wasn't sure if he believed it, but he said it anyway because that's what parents did. They promised things would be okay even when everything was falling apart, and then they worked like hell to make those promises true. The Eastern office was smaller, the people were different, and the work was exactly the same. Logan settled into a new routine, found Emma a new school, and tried not to count the days until he could see Isabella again. She texted him the night the investigation officially closed. It's over. No more restrictions. How are you? Surviving. Missing you. Same. When can I see you? This weekend? I can come there. Emma's with Mia's family. They're visiting for the weekend, Saturday. My place. I'll send you the address. Logan stared at his phone, something tight and painful loosening in his chest. 43 days since he'd seen her. 43 days of wondering if what they had could survive distance and complications and all the reasons they should give up. Saturday couldn't come fast enough. Logan made the drive on Saturday morning, leaving early enough to beat traffic, but late enough that Emma was already safely at Mia's grandmother's house 2 hours in the opposite direction. The roads were clear, the sky gray with the promise of snow that hadn't arrived yet. He'd made this drive 3 times in the past 6 weeks. Each time felt like crossing into different territory, leaving behind the person he was supposed to be and stepping into the person he was trying to become. Isabella's new place wasn't the sterile downtown apartment. She'd moved to something smaller on the outskirts of the city, a townhouse in a quiet neighborhood where no one from Meridian would accidentally see them. She'd sent him the address with a message that said she needed somewhere that felt like hers, not like a showroom for a life she was supposed to be living. Logan parked and sat in his car for a moment, looking at the red door with the wreath someone had hung there. It looked normal, lived in, nothing like the Ice Queen's fortress. He was halfway up the walk when the door opened. Isabella stood there in jeans and an oversized sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders, no makeup, looking more real than he'd ever seen her. When she saw him, her whole face changed. "You're here." "I'm here." They stood looking at each other for a beat too long, like neither of them knew what came next. Then Isabella closed the distance and wrapped her arms around him, burying her face against his chest. Logan held her, feeling the way she was shaking slightly, the way her breath came uneven. He pressed his face into her hair and just breathed. "I missed you," she said against his jacket. "I missed you too." They stayed like that on her front step until the cold forced them inside. The townhouse was nothing like her old apartment. Books were stacked on the coffee table. A blanket was thrown over the couch like someone actually used it. There were dishes in the sink and mail on the counter and all the signs of someone living instead of existing. "It's a mess," Isabella said, sounding almost embarrassed. "It's perfect." Liar. "I'm serious. The other place looked like no one lived there. This looks like home." Isabella glanced around like she was seeing it through his eyes. "I'm still figuring out what home is supposed to feel like. Turns out it's harder than I thought." Logan set his keys down on the counter and turned to really look at her. 6 weeks. It had been 6 weeks since that meeting in the park, since he'd left Meridian, since everything had blown up and forced them apart. She looked different, tired but softer somehow, less like she was holding herself together through sheer force of will. "How have you been?" he asked. Honest answer or polite answer? Honest. Isabella leaned against the counter, her arms crossed like she was protecting herself. "It's been hell. The board watches everything I do now. Every decision gets questioned. Every meeting feels like a test I'm supposed to pass. And I come home to this place that's supposed to feel like mine, but mostly just feels empty." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It's not your fault." "Feels like it is sometimes." "Well, it's not." She pushed off the counter and moved closer to him. "How's Emma?" "Adjusting. Her new school's okay. She video chats with Mia almost every night. She asks about you sometimes." Isabella's eyebrows rose. "She does?" "She remembers you from my one comment at breakfast. Thinks you're the reason we moved. She's not wrong." "Does she hate me?" "No, she thinks the whole situation is dumb. Her word, not mine." "Smart kid." "Yeah, too smart sometimes." Logan reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind Isabella's ear. The gesture felt natural, easy, like they'd done this 100 times. "She wants to meet you properly. When things settle down." "Do things settle down for people like us?" "I don't know. I've never been people like us before." Isabella caught his hand before he could pull away, lacing their fingers together. "I hate this. I hate that we have to hide. I hate that you had to move and Emma had to change schools, and I still have to pretend like nothing happened. I hate all of it." "But you don't hate us." "No, I don't hate us." Logan pulled her closer until there was no space between them. "Then we keep going. We figure it out." "How? You're 2 hours away. We see each other once every 2 weeks if we're lucky. Emma needs you. Your job needs you. Where do I fit in all of that?" "Here." Logan put his hand over her heart. "You fit here. And maybe that's enough for now." Isabella's eyes got wet. Is it enough for you? I don't know, but I know I'm not ready to give up yet. She kissed him then, hard and desperate, like she was trying to prove something or maybe just feel something that wasn't complicated. Logan kissed her back, his hands tangling in her hair, pulling her closer until he could feel her heartbeat against his chest. They broke apart, breathing hard. I should have done that 6 weeks ago, Isabella said. In the park with Jennifer Torres watching from her car. That would have gone great. Worth it. Logan laughed despite everything. You're crazy. About you. Yes. They moved to the couch, sitting close, Isabella's head on his shoulder. For a while they just sat there, not talking, just existing in the same space. Logan had forgotten what this felt like, having someone who wanted him there not because he was useful or needed, but just because he was him. Tell me about the new job, Isabella said eventually. It's fine. Same work, different building. My supervisor is decent. The commute is shorter, which is good for Emma. That's the most boring description I've ever heard. What do you want me to say? That it's thrilling? It's logistics, Isabella. It's spreadsheets and route optimization. It's never been thrilling. But you're good at it. I'm adequate at it. You saved the company $40,000 with one report. That's more than adequate. Logan shifted so he could see her face. How do you remember that? Because I pay attention to things that matter. And you matter. The words settled between them, heavy and significant. The board thinks I'm compromised, Isabella said quietly. They think my judgment is affected because of what happened. One of them suggested I step down temporarily, let someone else run things while I sort out my personal life. Logan's jaw tightened. What did you say? I told them I'd tripled their portfolios in 2 years, and if they wanted to question my judgment, they could do it while watching profits continue to rise, or they could find a new CEO. They backed down. But they're still watching. Like hawks, waiting for me to slip up so they can say I told you so. She turned her head to look at him. Do you know what the worst part is? Part of me thinks they're right. Part of me thinks I did compromise everything by getting involved with you. Do you regret it? That's the thing, I don't. I keep waiting to regret it, and I just don't. Logan kissed the top of her head. Good, because I don't either. They spent the day doing nothing important. They made lunch together, Isabella burning the grilled cheese while Logan rescued it and made fun of her cooking skills. They watched a movie neither of them paid attention to. They talked about Emma's latest space obsession and Isabella's ongoing battle with the board and all the small mundane things that made up their separate lives. It felt normal, almost easy, like they were just two people who cared about each other figuring out how to be together. Around 6, Logan's phone rang. Emma's face filled the screen. Hey, Sweet Pea. Daddy, guess what? Mia's grandma has a telescope and we saw Jupiter. We actually saw Jupiter with our actual eyes. Logan smiled, warmth flooding through him. That's amazing. Did you see the moons? 3 of them. Mia's grandma says next time we can try to find Saturn. Emma's face got closer to the screen, her voice dropping to a whisper. Is the lady there? Logan glanced at Isabella, who was watching from the other end of the couch. Yeah, she's here. Can I say hi? You sure? Daddy, I'm not a baby. I know you have a girlfriend. Logan tried not to choke. I never said that. You didn't have to. Are you going to let me say hi or not? He turned the phone so Isabella was in frame. Emma, this is Isabella. Isabella, this is Emma. Emma waved enthusiastically. Hi, Daddy talks about you a lot. Isabella's smile was genuine and slightly terrified. He talks about you too. Congratulations on seeing Jupiter. Thanks. Daddy, you should bring her next time. Mia's grandma says anyone who wants to look at space is welcome. We'll see, Em. That means no. Emma rolled her eyes in a way that was far too mature for 7. Okay, I have to go. Mia's grandma is making cookies. Love you. Love you too. The call ended. Logan set his phone down and found Isabella staring at him. She knows about me, Isabella said. She's observant. Told you she was too smart. What does she think about us? She thinks the situation is dumb, but she's willing to meet you if I stop being weird about it. Logan ran a hand through his hair. I didn't tell her details, just that I have a friend who I care about and things got complicated at work. And she's okay with that? She wants me to be happy. She's been worried about me for 3 years. I think she's just relieved I'm talking to another adult who isn't her teacher or Mia's mom. Isabella was quiet for a moment. I've never dated anyone with kids before. Is that a problem? No, it's just different. You're not just thinking about what you want. You're thinking about what's best for her, and I don't know if I'm what's best for either of you. Logan moved closer, taking her hand. You want to know what Emma said when I told her we had to move? She asked if I loved you, and I said I didn't know, but I thought I could. And she said then we should try. 7-year-olds aren't always right, but they're honest. Emma doesn't have any reason to want this to work except that she wants me to be happy. And for some reason, you make me happy. Even though we barely see each other, even though this is hard and complicated and probably going to blow up in our faces, even though all of that, Isabella leaned her forehead against his. I'm scared. Of what? Of letting myself want this and then losing it, of being the reason your life gets harder, of failing at the one thing I actually care about that isn't work. You're not going to fail. How do you know? Because you don't know how. Failing isn't in your vocabulary. It is now. Ever since that investigation, ever since I had to watch you leave and couldn't do anything about it, that felt like failing. Logan cupped her face in his hands. You fought for me. You offered to resign. You hired me a lawyer. That's not failing. That's showing up even when it costs you everything. It wasn't enough. It was everything. They kissed again, slower this time, less desperate and more certain. Logan felt something shift inside him, some piece clicking into place. This woman, this impossible, complicated woman who'd turned his life upside down. He was falling for her. Had already fallen, if he was being honest, and that terrified him more than anything else. Logan left Sunday morning, the drive back feeling longer than it should have. His phone rang when he was halfway home. Marcus. You busy? Marcus asked. Driving. What's up? You need to hear this. There's talk at the office. Logan's stomach dropped. What kind of talk? The kind that says someone's gunning for Vaughn, and they're using you to do it. What are you talking about? David Chen, you remember him? VP of Operations. Real ambitious, been trying to get board support to expand his role. Apparently he was the one who filed the complaint about you and Vaughn. Logan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. How do you know? His assistant got drunk at a happy hour and started talking. Said Chen was furious when he saw you two at the party. Thought Vaughn was being reckless. Saw an opportunity to make her look bad to the board. That was 6 weeks ago. Why are you telling me now? Because he's not done. He's been feeding information to board members, questioning her decisions, suggesting she's distracted. And he's been asking questions about where you went, what you're doing at the Eastern office, whether you two are still in contact. Logan felt sick. He's investigating us? Looks like it. And if he finds anything, any proof you two are still seeing each other, he's going to use it to push her out. Why? What does he get out of it? If Vaughn steps down, he's next in line for CEO. He's been positioning himself for months. You and Vaughn just gave him the ammunition he needed. Logan pulled over to the side of the road, his mind racing. Does Isabella know? I don't know, but you should tell her, and you should both be careful. Chen's got resources. If he wants to find dirt, he'll find it. After the call ended, Logan sat in his car staring at nothing. They'd been careful. They'd followed the rules. They'd done everything they were supposed to do to keep their relationship private and separate from work. But if someone was actively looking for evidence, how long before they found something? A credit card charge showing Logan in her neighborhood. Security footage of him coming and going from her townhouse. Something small that could be twisted into proof of continued fraternization. He called Isabella. Hey, I was just thinking about... We have a problem, Logan interrupted. David Chen. He's the one who reported us. And he's still investigating. The silence on the other end was heavy. How do you know? Isabella asked finally. Logan explained what Marcus had told him. When he finished, Isabella was quiet for so long he thought the call had dropped. Isabella? I'm here. I'm just thinking. Her voice was controlled, back to CEO mode. Chen's been a problem for months. I knew he wanted my position. I didn't know he was willing to use you to get it. What do we do? You don't do anything. You stay at the Eastern office, do your job, and keep your distance from me. That's not a solution. It's the only solution. If Chen's watching, we can't give him anything to find. That means no more weekend visits, no calls unless they're about work, nothing that can be used against us. Logan's chest felt tight. So we just stop? After everything? We pause. Until I can deal with Chen. How are you going to deal with him? I'm going to do what I do best. I'm going to outmaneuver him. Her voice was sharp, determined. Chen wants me to look weak. He wants the board to think I'm distracted and compromised. So I'm going to show them exactly how focused I am. I'm going to make myself indispensable. And then I'm going to make sure Chen has bigger problems than my personal life. That sounds like war. It is war. And I don't lose wars. Logan believed her. Isabella Vaughn hadn't become CEO by being soft. She'd built an empire by being smarter, faster, and more ruthless than anyone else in the room. But it also meant putting their relationship on hold. Again. How long? He asked. I don't know. A month? Maybe 2. However long it takes to neutralize the threat. And then what? Then maybe we can breathe again. Logan closed his eyes. I hate this. I know. I hate it too. Her voice softened slightly. But I'm not giving up on us. I'm just protecting what we have until it's safe to have it. What if it's never safe? Then we'll deal with that when we get there. But right now, we deal with Chen. They said goodbye and Logan sat in his car on the side of the road, feeling like he'd just lost something he'd barely started to have. The next 6 weeks were exactly as miserable as Logan expected. No calls except one awkward work-related conversation about a shipping route that could have been an email. No texts beyond a single message from Isabella that said she was handling things. No weekend visits, no stolen moments, nothing. At the Eastern office, Logan threw himself into work. Optimized routes no one asked him to optimize. Took on projects outside his scope. Stayed late when Emma was with Mia's family and went home to an empty apartment that still didn't feel like home. Emma noticed. You're sad again, she said one night over dinner. I'm fine. You say you're fine, but you're not eating, and you keep staring at your phone. I'm just busy with work. Is Isabella okay? Logan looked at his daughter. Why do you ask? Because you haven't talked to her in forever, and you look like you did after Mom died. Like you're here, but you're not really here. The observation hit him harder than it should have. I'm here, Sweet Pea, I promise. But you miss her. Yeah, I miss her. Can you call her? It's complicated. Everything's always complicated with adults. Emma poked at her pasta. Mom used to say that love isn't supposed to be easy, but it's supposed to be worth it. Is Isabella worth it? Logan's throat felt tight. Yes. Then why aren't you fighting for her? I am fighting for her. Just not in a way you can see. Emma gave him a look that said she didn't believe him but wasn't going to argue. She was getting better at that, knowing when to push and when to let things go. Logan's phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Reed, this is Jennifer Torres. We need to talk. Logan's heart sank. What happened? David Chen filed a formal complaint with the board. He has photos of your car parked at Mrs. Vaughn's townhouse. He's claiming continued fraternization in violation of the separation agreement. We weren't violating anything. The investigation was closed. The investigation closed with the understanding that the relationship ended. Chen's arguing that you continued seeing each other, which constitutes deception. What does that mean for Isabella? The board is calling an emergency meeting. They're discussing her removal. Logan felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. They can't do that. They can if they decide she's become a liability. Chen's been building his case for weeks. He has board members convinced that Ms. Vaughn is too personally involved to lead effectively. What do I do? You tell the truth. If they call you in, you tell them exactly what happened. When you saw her, how often, whether anything inappropriate occurred. And if the truth isn't enough? Jennifer was quiet for a moment. Then we hope Ms. Vaughn is as good at defending herself as she is at everything else. The call came 2 days later. The board wanted Logan's testimony. They wanted him to come back to Meridian headquarters, sit in a room with a dozen executives, and answer questions about his relationship with Isabella Vaughn. Logan made arrangements for Emma to stay with Mia's family, took a personal day, and drove the 2 hours to a building he'd hoped never to see again. Jennifer met him in the lobby. They're waiting upstairs, conference room A. Ms. Vaughn is already there. How is she? Calm, controlled. Everything you'd expect. Jennifer straightened his tie, even though it was already straight. Just tell the truth. Don't embellish. Don't get defensive. Just facts. Logan nodded and followed her to the elevator. The conference room was exactly what he expected. Long table, expensive chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows showing the city below. 12 board members sat along the sides. David Chen sat at one end, looking smug. And at the other end was Isabella. She looked tired. Her suit was perfect. Her hair pulled back, her expression neutral. But Logan could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the tension in her shoulders. Their eyes met for half a second before Logan forced himself to look away. Mr. Reed, thank you for coming. The board chair, an older man with silver hair, gestured to a chair in the middle of the table. We have some questions about your relationship with Ms. Vaughn. Logan sat. I'll answer what I can. Were you romantically involved with Ms. Vaughn while both employed at Meridian Industries? We had conversations at a company party and met a few times outside of work. I wouldn't call it romantic involvement. But you were interested in her? Yes. And she was interested in you? Logan glanced at Isabella. She was watching him with an expression that gave nothing away. You'd have to ask her. We're asking you, Mr. Reed. Did Miss Vaughn express romantic interest in you? She expressed interest in talking to me like I was a person instead of an employee number. If that's romantic, then yes. One of the board members leaned forward. Did you engage in a physical relationship? No, not while we were both at Meridian. What about after you transferred? Logan hesitated. This was it. He could lie, could say they'd had no contact, could protect Isabella by denying everything. But lying would make it worse if Chen had more evidence. And more than that, he was tired of hiding. After the investigation closed, we saw each other occasionally on weekends when my daughter was otherwise occupied. We had dinner, we talked. We're trying to figure out if we have something real worth pursuing. So you continued the relationship despite the separation agreement. The separation agreement said we couldn't have workplace contact. I work in a different office, report to a different supervisor, and have no professional interaction with Miss Vaughn. We followed the terms. David Chen spoke for the first time. But you continued a personal relationship, which suggests that the transfer was meaningless, that Ms. Vaughn used her position to create a loophole that allowed you both to continue an inappropriate relationship. Logan looked at him. With all due respect, Ms. Vaughn didn't create anything. I chose to transfer. I chose to maintain contact with her after the investigation closed. Those were my decisions. Decisions influenced by your relationship with the CEO. Decisions influenced by the fact that I'm a grown man capable of making my own choices. The board chair held up a hand. Let's stay focused. Mr. Reed, has Miss Vaughn ever used her position to provide you with preferential treatment, better assignments, faster promotions, anything that would constitute an abuse of power? No, I've received nothing but the standard treatment any employee would get. Then why pursue a relationship that created such significant complications? Logan looked at Isabella again. She was watching him with something that looked like fear buried under layers of control. Because she saw me when I was invisible, Logan said quietly. Because she treated me like I mattered when most people treated me like I was just taking up space. Because in 3 years of barely surviving, she made me remember what it felt like to actually live. And because I thought maybe two people who'd forgotten how to be human could figure it out together. The room was completely silent. That's not a professional answer, Chen said. You didn't ask a professional question. You asked why I pursued a relationship that complicated my life. That's the answer. The board chair looked at Isabella. Ms. Vaughn, do you have anything to add? Isabella stood slowly. She looked at Logan, then at the board, then at Chen. Mr. Reed is right, about all of it. I developed feelings for an employee which was inappropriate regardless of the circumstances. When those feelings were discovered, I fought to protect him from consequences while accepting my own. I followed every recommendation from HR. I signed every document. I did everything asked of me. She paused. But I didn't stop caring about him. and I'm not going to pretend I did to make this board feel comfortable. You're admitting to continued violation of company policy, Chen said. I'm admitting to being human, which apparently is grounds for removal in this company. It's grounds for removal when it compromises your judgment. My judgment built this company back from bankruptcy. My judgment tripled your portfolios. My judgment made Meridian Industries relevant again. And my judgment in my personal life is none of your concern as long as it doesn't affect my professional performance. Isabella's voice was steel. Show me one decision I've made as CEO that was compromised by my relationship with Mr. Reed. One contract I mishandled, one initiative that failed, one quarter where we didn't exceed projections. Show me proof that my personal life damaged this company in any measurable way. No one spoke. You can't, Isabella continued, because it didn't. The only thing my relationship with Logan Reed did was make me remember that I'm more than a profit margin. And if that makes me unfit to lead, then maybe you need a CEO who's willing to be nothing but a profit margin. But that's not who I am anymore. She sat down, her hands folded calmly on the table, looking every inch the woman who'd rebuilt an empire. The board chair cleared his throat. Thank you both for your candor. We'll deliberate and provide a decision within 48 hours. Logan was dismissed. He walked out of the conference room without looking back, his heart pounding. Jennifer caught up with him at the elevator. That was either brilliant or career suicide, she said. For her or for me. Both. Logan leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. What happens now? Now we wait and hope that the board values results more than appearances. The elevator opened. Logan stepped inside, and as the doors closed, he caught one last glimpse of the conference room through the glass walls. Isabella was still sitting at that table, alone, facing down 12 people who held her future in their hands. And Logan realized he'd never seen anyone look so strong while being so completely vulnerable. Part 5. Louis, ghi, viết 6.000 đến 6.500 từ liên kết liền mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện, pha hồi thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước, không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới. Liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch. Sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần, duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ. Phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc. Kể theo ngôi thứ 3, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lan man, nhân vật không hoàn hảo, hội thoại tự nhiên, tránh ngôn ngữ văn chương sáo rơi và cụm từ AI điển hình. Viết như nhà văn chuyên nghiệp, không như AI cố gắng nghe sang. Có yếu tố con người, cầm miêu tả qua mượt mà và hoàn hảo. Phần 5 giải quyết hết vấn đề và kết thúc trọn vẹn câu chuyện. Câu chuyện không nhắc đến Chúa, lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document, chỉ dần bắt buộc, không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyền. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí, không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật. Không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật, theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự. Tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. Showmore 13 giờ 57 phút, Part 5. Logan didn't hear anything for 3 days. 3 days of going through the motions at work, picking Emma up from school, making dinner, pretending everything was fine while his phone sat silent on the counter, mocking him. Jennifer had said 48 hours. It had been 72. On Thursday evening, while Emma was doing homework at the kitchen table, Logan's phone finally rang. Jennifer. They made a decision, she said without preamble. Logan's hand tightened on the phone. And? Isabella keeps her position. The board voted 8-4 in her favor. They released a statement saying that while her conduct showed poor judgment, her professional performance has been exemplary and doesn't warrant removal. Logan felt something loosen in his chest. What about Chen? He's been placed on administrative leave pending an internal review. Turns out he wasn't just investigating you and Isabella. He'd been collecting information on several board members, trying to build leverage. When that came to light during deliberations, it didn't help his case. So it's over? Jennifer was quiet for a moment. The board fight is over, but there are conditions. What kind of conditions? Isabella agreed to maintain strict professional boundaries, no involvement with employees, No situations that could be perceived as conflicts of interest. And you need to stay at the Eastern office. No transfers back to headquarters for at least 2 years. That's it? That's it. You're both free to continue your relationship outside of work, but inside Meridian, you're strangers. After the call ended, Logan sat at the kitchen table staring at his phone. She'd kept her job. She'd won, and they could keep seeing each other without looking over their shoulders waiting for the next investigation. It should have felt like victory. Daddy? Emma was watching him. Is everything okay? Yeah, sweet pea. Everything's okay. You don't look okay. Logan set his phone down. How do you always know? Because you do this thing with your face when you're worried. Your eyebrows get close together and you chew on the inside of your cheek. She closed her math book. Is it about Isabella? When did you get so observant? I've always been observant. You just never noticed because you were too busy being worried. She came around the table and leaned against him. Is she in trouble? She was, but she's okay now. Are you in trouble? No. Then why do you still look sad? Logan pulled Emma into a hug, holding her close. Because sometimes, even when things work out, they're still complicated. Is that an adult thing? Yeah, that's an adult thing. Emma pulled back and looked at him seriously. Do you love her? The question hit him the same way it had the first time she'd asked. But this time Logan knew the answer. Yeah, I do. Then you should tell her. Mom always said that love is too important to keep quiet about. Logan's eyes stung. Your mom was right. She usually was. Emma smiled, that gap-toothed grin that made her look exactly like Sarah. So are you going to tell her? Maybe. If she'll listen. She'll listen. You're a good dad. That makes you a good person, and good people deserve good things. Logan kissed the top of her head, wondering when his 7-year-old had gotten wise enough to teach him lessons about life. His phone buzzed. A text from Isabella. I heard from Jennifer. Are you okay? Logan stared at the message. 3 days. 3 days of silence, and now she was asking if he was okay. He typed back. Are you? Exhausted, relieved, terrified, all of the above. We need to talk, I know. Can you come this weekend? Emma has a birthday party Saturday. Sunday? Sunday works. Same place? Yeah. The conversation ended there. Logan put his phone away and tried to focus on helping Emma with her homework, but his mind was already 2 days ahead trying to figure out what he was going to say. Sunday morning arrived cold and clear, the kind of winter day that hurt to breathe but looked beautiful doing it. Logan dropped Emma at Mia's house for what had become their regular Sunday hangout, listened to both girls plan an elaborate fort-building project, and promised to pick her up by dinner. Then he drove 2 hours through traffic that tested his patience, rehearsing conversations in his head that all sounded wrong. Isabella answered the door before he could knock. She looked different. Her hair was longer, pulled back in a loose braid. She was wearing leggings and an oversized sweater that made her look younger, more vulnerable. There were dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. Hi, she said. Hi. They stood in the doorway looking at each other, neither quite sure how to bridge the gap that 3 days of silence had created. Come in. It's freezing out here. Logan followed her inside. The townhouse looked more lived in than last time. There were papers spread across the coffee table, a laptop open on the couch, signs that Isabella had been working from home. Coffee? She offered. Sure. They moved to the kitchen in the kind of awkward dance of people who weren't sure what they were to each other anymore. Isabella poured coffee with hands that shook slightly, and Logan took the mug without their fingers touching. So, Isabella said. So. That went well, she said with a bitter laugh. 3 days of silence and we can't even manage small talk. I didn't know what to say. You went radio silent after the hearing. I needed time to think, to figure out what I wanted, what I was willing to risk. She set her coffee down. And I needed to make sure that the next time we talked, it wasn't because we were in the middle of another crisis. Is this not a crisis? I don't know. Is it? Logan set his coffee down too and turned to face her fully. You tell me. You won. You kept your job. You beat Chen, you got everything you were fighting for. So where does that leave us? That's what I've been trying to figure out. Isabella crossed her arms, that defensive gesture he recognized from the first time they'd met. The board made it clear that any hint of impropriety will end my career. No second chances, no more investigations. One wrong move and I'm done. So you're ending this. That's what you asked me here to say. No, that's not... She stopped, frustration crossing her face. I don't want to end this, but I need to know if you understand what continuing means. It means hiding. It means being careful every single time we see each other. It means you stay at the Eastern office, and I stay in headquarters, and we live separate lives that only overlap on weekends when no one's watching. I know what it means. Do you? Because I've watched you give up your apartment, your daughter's school, your whole life because of me. And now I'm asking you to keep doing it, to keep being patient while I figure out how to be the CEO everyone expects and the person you need me to be. And I don't know if that's fair. Logan stepped closer. What do you want, Isabella? Not what's fair or what's expected. What do you actually want? Her composure cracked. I want you. I want to not have to choose between my career and the one person who makes me feel human. I want to wake up next to you instead of in an empty bed. I want Emma to know me as more than just the reason you had to move. I want... Her voice broke. I want everything I spent my whole life convincing myself I didn't need. Then take it. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be vulnerable and strong at the same time. I don't know how to let someone in without losing the parts of myself I need to survive. I built my entire life on being self-sufficient, and now you're asking me to depend on someone, and that terrifies me. Logan reached out and took her hand. This time she didn't pull away. I'm not asking you to depend on me. I'm asking you to let me stand next to you. There's a difference. Is there? Yeah, depending on someone means you fall apart when they're not there. Standing next to someone means you're both stronger together, but you're still whole apart. He squeezed her hand gently. I don't want you to need me, Isabella. I want you to want me. And I want you back without it feeling like I'm drowning. Are you drowning? Sometimes, when I'm driving 2 hours each way to see you for a few hours. When Emma asks why we can't all have dinner together, and I have to explain that grown-up relationships are complicated. When I lie awake at night wondering if we're fighting for something real or just the idea of something real. Isabella's eyes filled with tears. I don't want you to drown. Then let me know this is real. Not the idea of it, not the possibility. Tell me that what we have is worth all the complicated, messy parts. It's real. The words came out fierce. It's the most real thing I've ever had. But that doesn't make it easier. I don't need easy. I need honest. Isabella pulled her hand free and turned away, wrapping her arms around herself. You want honest? Fine. I'm in love with you. I've been in love with you since that night in the park when you told me I was real, and it scares me to death because I've never loved anyone like this. I've never wanted someone so much that the thought of losing them makes me physically ill. Logan's heart was pounding. Isabella, I'm not finished. She turned back to face him, tears streaming down her face. I love you, and I love that you're a father who puts his daughter first. I love that you see me as more than a title. I love that you call me on my crap, and you're honest even when it's uncomfortable. But I also know that loving you means accepting that I'm not your first priority. Emma is, and she should be, but I don't know if I can handle always being second. You're not second. Yes, I am, and I'm okay with that in theory, but in practice, it means you can't just drop everything to see me. It means planning around custody schedules and school events and all the things that come with being a parent, and I don't know if I'm equipped for that. Logan closed the distance between them. Do you want to be equipped for it? What? You're acting like this is something you have to accept or walk away from. But there's a third option. You could try. You could learn. You could be part of Emma's life instead of separate from it. She doesn't even know me. Then get to know her. She wants to meet you properly. Not as this abstract person who complicated her dad's life, as the woman who makes me happy. What if I'm terrible at it? Then you'll be terrible at it and we'll figure it out, together. Logan wiped tears from her face with his thumb. I'm not asking you to be her mother. I'm asking you to be present, to show up, to try. Yes, Isabella looked at him with an expression that was equal parts hope and fear. What if I fail? What if I screw this up and hurt you both? Then you'll screw it up and we'll deal with it. But right now you're failing by not trying at all. The words hung between them, harsh but true. Isabella let out a shaky laugh. You're not very good at comforting. I told you that at the beginning. You did. She took his face in her hands, looking at him with those dark eyes that had first caught his attention at a party that felt like years ago. I love you, even though it's terrifying and complicated and probably going to blow up in spectacular ways. I love you too, even though you're terrible at cooking and you work too much and you think being vulnerable means weakness. I'm working on that last part. I know, I can see it. Isabella kissed him then, soft and careful, like she was afraid he might break. Logan kissed her back, pulling her closer until there was no space between them. When they broke apart, Isabella rested her forehead against his. So what now? She asked. Now we stop hiding. Not at work. We still have to be careful there. But everywhere else. We tell people we're together. We introduce you to Emma properly. We figure out how to build something that works for all three of us. That sounds terrifying. It is, but we're doing it anyway. Why? Logan smiled. Because Emma told me that love is too important to keep quiet about. And she's right. They spent the rest of the day planning, not grand romantic plans, but practical ones. When Isabella could visit without it being a 2-hour drive each way, how to introduce her to Emma in a way that didn't feel forced, what they'd tell people at work who asked questions. It was boring and mundane and exactly what they needed. Around 4, Logan's phone rang. Mia's mom. Hey, I hate to do this, but Mia's coming down with something. Can you pick Emma up early? Of course. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up and looked at Isabella. Emma's sick. I need to go. I'll come with you. Logan paused. You sure? You said stop hiding. This is me, not hiding. Isabella grabbed her coat. Let's go get your daughter. The drive to Mia's house took 15 minutes. Logan used the time to warn Isabella about what she was walking into. Emma's going to have questions, lots of them, and she's not shy about asking. I can handle questions. Can you handle a 7-year-old interrogating you about your intentions? Isabella laughed nervously. That's actually happening? That's actually happening. They pulled up to a modest house in a neighborhood that looked like every other suburb. Mia's mom, Rachel, answered the door with a sympathetic smile. She's in the living room. Nothing serious, just a stomach thing. Mia gave it to her, apparently. Logan followed Rachel inside, Isabella trailing behind him. Emma was curled up on the couch under a blanket, looking miserable. When she saw Logan, her face brightened slightly. Daddy! Hey, sweet pea, heard you're not feeling great. My stomach hurts. Then Emma noticed Isabella standing in the doorway. Her eyes went wide. You brought her. Is that okay? Emma sat up straighter despite clearly feeling awful. Yeah, hi, Isabella. Isabella stepped forward, looking more nervous than Logan had ever seen her. Hi, Emma. I'm sorry you're not feeling well. It's okay. Mia threw up twice, so I think I'm doing better than her. Emma studied Isabella with the same intense focus she used on everything. Are you and my dad together for real now? Isabella glanced at Logan, who nodded encouragingly. Yes, Isabella said. We are, if that's okay with you. Why wouldn't it be okay? Because you're important to your dad, and if you're not comfortable with us being together, that matters. Emma seemed to consider this. Do you make him happy? I try to. Does he make you happy? Very much. Then it's okay. Emma settled back into the couch. Can we go home now? I want my own bed. Logan scooped her up, blanket and all. Let's go home. Isabella drove while Logan sat in the back with Emma, who fell asleep almost immediately. She approved of you, Logan said quietly. Isabella glanced at him in the rearview mirror. That was approval? That was Emma giving her blessing. Trust me, if she didn't like you, you'd know. She's amazing. You've done an incredible job with her. We've done an incredible job together, me and her. We're a team. And now I'm trying to join the team. Now you're trying to join the team, Logan agreed. And it's going to be messy and weird and probably involve a lot of stomach bugs. Isabella laughed softly. I can handle that. They got Emma home and settled into bed. She woke up long enough to ask for water and tell Isabella she should stay for dinner, even though she probably wouldn't eat anything. Another time, Isabella promised, when you're feeling better. Okay, but you have to come back. Dad needs you. After Emma fell asleep again, Isabella and Logan stood in the kitchen of his small apartment that still didn't quite feel like home. She's right, you know, Logan said. I do need you. That's terrifying. Welcome to relationships. It's all terrifying. Isabella leaned against the counter, looking around the apartment. This place is nothing like I imagined. What did you imagine? I don't know. Something more polished, more put together. She gestured at the mismatched furniture, the stack of books on space Emma had left on the coffee table, the photos of Sarah still displayed on the mantel. This is real. This is a life someone actually lives. Does that bother you? No. It makes me want to be part of it. Well, Logan crossed to her and took her hands. Then be part of it. Not perfectly. Not without mistakes. Just show up and try. I don't know how to be someone's girlfriend and someone's potential stepmother figure and the CEO of a company all at the same time. So we figure it out as we go, together. Isabella looked up at him, vulnerability written across every feature. What if I'm terrible at this? Then you'll be terrible at it with us. And we'll love you anyway. She started crying again, but this time it looked like relief instead of fear. I'm going to hold you to that. Good. They stayed like that for a long moment, holding each other in a kitchen that smelled like the soup Logan had made earlier, with a 6-7-year-old asleep in the next room and all the complications of their lives still unsolved. But for the first time, it felt like maybe those complications didn't matter as much as the fact that they were facing them together. The next few months weren't easy. Isabella visited every other weekend, slowly integrating herself into Logan and Emma's routine. She learned that Emma liked her pasta with butter, not sauce, that she had strong opinions about which planets were underrated, that she still cried sometimes when she looked at photos of her mom but was getting better at talking about it. Emma learned that Isabella couldn't cook but could tell stories about running a company that made business sound like an adventure, that she was patient with questions and honest about things she didn't know, that she looked at Logan the way Emma remembered her mom looking at him, like he was important and worth keeping. At work, Logan excelled in ways he hadn't before. Without the weight of hiding, he found himself taking on bigger projects, speaking up in meetings, being visible in ways he'd avoided for years. His supervisor noticed, put him up for a promotion. Logan took it, even though it meant more responsibility, because it also meant more security for Emma. Isabella fought her own battles at headquarters. The board watched her closely for months, waiting for her to slip up. She didn't. She delivered record profits, launched 3 successful initiatives, and proved that her personal life hadn't compromised her professional judgment. Eventually, even the skeptics had to admit she was still the best person for the job. Chen was let go quietly, his investigation into board members becoming his own undoing. No one at Meridian talked about it directly, but everyone understood that certain lines couldn't be crossed. And slowly, carefully, Logan and Isabella built something that worked, not perfectly. There were arguments about time and priorities. Weekends when work pulled Isabella away and Emma was disappointed. Moments when Logan worried he was asking too much, or Isabella worried she was giving too little. But they showed up, both of them, imperfectly and honestly, and with the determination to make it work. A year after that disastrous Christmas party, Meridian Industries held another holiday gathering. This time, Logan didn't debate whether to attend. He put on a suit that actually fit, dropped Emma at Rachel's house with Mia, and drove to headquarters with Isabella in the passenger seat. Are you nervous? She asked. Terrified. We don't have to do this. We could skip it. No, we're done hiding. The party was in full swing when they arrived. Same top floor, same white lights, same view of the city. But everything felt different. Marcus spotted them first. His eyes went wide when he saw them walk in together, but then he grinned. About time, he called out. Other people turned to look. Some looked surprised. Some looked knowing, like they'd suspected all along. A few looked uncomfortable, but most just looked curious. Logan felt Isabella's hand find his, their fingers lacing together. Ready? She whispered, not even a little bit. They walked into the party together, not hiding, not apologizing, just existing as two people who'd decided each other was worth fighting for. People asked questions. Logan and Isabella answered honestly. They were together. They were making it work. No, it wasn't always easy, but yes, it was worth it. Some people got it, some didn't. Logan found he didn't care as much as he thought he would. Around 9, Isabella pulled him toward the windows where they'd first really talked a year ago. Can you believe it's been a year? She asked. Feels longer. Feels like we've lived 3 years and 12 months. Would you do it again, knowing everything that happened? Logan thought about the investigation, the transfer, the complications that had nearly ended everything before it started. Then he thought about Isabella's laugh when Emma told a terrible knock-knock joke, about the way they'd learned to navigate each other's lives, about this moment, standing at a party without hiding, without fear, just being. Yeah, he said, I'd do it again. Isabella smiled, that real, genuine smile that had become more common over the past year. Good, because I would too. They stood looking out at the city, at the lights and the life moving below them. A year ago, Logan had been invisible, choosing safety over everything else. Isabella had been ice, keeping everyone at a distance. Now they were just two imperfect people who'd found each other at the worst possible time and decided to make it work anyway. Logan's phone buzzed. A text from Emma, sent from Rachel's phone. Having fun! Rachel says we can make cookies. Tell Isabella I'm making one shaped like Jupiter for her. He showed Isabella the message. She laughed, that full, genuine laugh that made everything worth it. Jupiter cookies. That's a thing now? Apparently. Your daughter is wonderful. Our daughter, Logan corrected gently. If you want her to be. Isabella's eyes got bright. Yeah? She asked me last week if you were going to be her stepmom someday. I told her I didn't know, but I hoped so. She said she hoped so too. Logan, I'm not proposing, not yet, not here. But I want you to know that this isn't temporary for me. Emma isn't temporary. You being part of our lives isn't temporary. This is real and permanent, and I want to build a future that includes all three of us. Isabella kissed him right there in front of the windows with half the company watching. And Logan kissed her back, not caring who saw, not caring what anyone thought. Because they'd already survived the worst, the investigations, the separation, the fear that what they had couldn't survive reality. And they'd come out the other side still standing, still together, still choosing each other even when it was hard. Marcus appeared beside them, grinning. So I'm guessing you two are official now. What gave it away? Logan asked. The fact that you just kissed your boss at a company party. Again. Isabella laughed. I'm not his boss anymore. Different office, remember? Right, which means this is actually allowed now. Isabella agreed. They stayed at the party for another hour, talking to people who were genuinely happy for them and avoiding people who weren't. At 10, they left together, Logan's hand in Isabella's, walking out of Meridian Industries as partners instead of secrets. On the drive back to Logan's apartment, Isabella was quiet. You okay? Logan asked. I'm thinking about how different everything is from a year ago, how scared I was, how lonely, how convinced I was that wanting anything beyond work made me weak. And now? Now I know that wanting more doesn't make you weak. It makes you brave. And I'm grateful I was brave enough to want you. Logan pulled into his parking spot and turned to look at her. We still have to figure out living situations, and what we tell people at work going forward, and how to handle holidays with Emma and schedules and all the boring practical stuff. I know, and it's still going to be complicated. I'm still going to be a single dad with responsibilities. You're still going to be a CEO with demands on your time. We're still going to have to work at this. I know that too. So why are you smiling? Isabella reached over and took his hand. Because a year ago, I thought the idea of working at a relationship sounded exhausting. Now I think it sounds like the best thing I've ever signed up for. They went inside to find Rachel had brought Emma home and put her to bed. There was a note on the counter that said Emma had made it to 9:30 before crashing, and there were cookies in a container on the table. Logan opened the container. Sure enough, there was a lumpy round cookie with spots that might have been Jupiter's red spot. She really made you a Jupiter cookie, he said. Isabella picked it up carefully, looking at it like it was the most precious thing she'd ever held. I'm going to cry over a cookie. It's a very meaningful cookie. It really is. They ate cookies in Logan's kitchen at 10:30 on a Sunday night, and it felt more significant than any fancy dinner or romantic gesture ever could. This was real life. Sick kids and work stress and Jupiter cookies and trying to figure out how to build a family that didn't look like anyone expected. And it was messy and imperfect and exactly what both of them needed. 6 months later, on a Saturday afternoon while Emma was at a sleepover, Logan drove Isabella to a park 2 hours away from everything they knew. "Where are we going?" she asked. "You'll see." They pulled up to a small house on a quiet street, nothing fancy but well-maintained. A for sale sign stood in the front yard. Logan turned off the car. "I've been looking at places. Somewhere between the Eastern office and headquarters. Somewhere that could be ours instead of just mine or just yours." Isabella stared at the house. "You want to move again?" "I want to move forward, with you, with Emma. I want us to have a place that's built for all three of us, not just cobbled together from separate lives." "This is huge." "I know. Emma would have to change schools again." "I talked to her about it. She's okay with it if it means we all get to be together more." "When did you talk to her?" "Last week. I wanted to make sure she was on board before I said anything to you." Logan reached over and took Isabella's hand. "I'm not asking you to give up your career. I'm not asking you to change who you are. I'm asking if you want to build something with us. A real home. A real life. Not just weekends and stolen moments." Isabella looked at the house, then at Logan, then back at the house. "Can we go inside?" The realtor met them at the door. The house was small but bright, with 3 bedrooms and a backyard that Emma would love. There was a kitchen big enough for all of them to cook in, even if Isabella still couldn't make anything beyond toast. There was an office where Isabella could work from home when she needed to. There were spaces that felt like they could become theirs. After the tour, they stood in what would be the living room. "What do you think?" Logan asked. "I think it's perfect. I think it's terrifying. I think I want it more than I've wanted anything in a long time." "Then let's do it. Let's build something real." Isabella turned to him, tears in her eyes. "Are you sure? This is a huge commitment. This is me moving in with you and Emma. This is all 3 of us trying to be a family." "I'm sure. The question is, are you?" Isabella looked around the empty room, and Logan could see her imagining it. Furniture and photos and Emma's books about space scattered on the coffee table. A life that was messy and real and theirs. "Yes," she said. "I'm sure." Logan kissed her there in the empty living room of a house that would become their home. And for the first time in 4 years, he felt like he wasn't just surviving. He was living. They both were. And they were doing it together. They moved in 3 months later. Emma got the biggest bedroom because she insisted she needed space for her growing planet collection. Isabella took the office and immediately filled it with work she could do remotely. Logan claimed the kitchen and promptly taught Isabella how to make exactly 1 meal she couldn't burn. It wasn't perfect. There were fights about whose turn it was to do dishes and whether Emma's bedtime could be negotiated and how to balance work events with family dinners. But it was real, and it was theirs. On their first night in the new house, after Emma had finally gone to sleep in a room she'd already decorated with glow-in-the-dark stars, Logan and Isabella sat on the back porch looking at nothing in particular. "Can you believe we're here?" Isabella asked. "Not really. A year and a half ago, I was convinced this was impossible." "What changed?" Logan thought about it. "I stopped choosing safe. I started choosing you." "That was a terrible decision. The worst. But you don't regret it." "Not for a second." Isabella leaned her head on his shoulder. "I love you. Even though you make me eat vegetables and you're teaching Emma to negotiate like a tiny lawyer and you leave your socks everywhere. I love you too. Even though you still can't cook and you work too much and you alphabetize the spice rack because you're secretly a control freak." "I'm not secretly anything. I'm openly a control freak." "Fair point." They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only came from knowing someone well enough to not need words to fill every moment. "Logan?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for not giving up on me. On us. Even when it would have been easier. Thank you for being worth not giving up on." Inside the house, they could hear Emma moving around, probably rearranging her planets for the 3rd time that day. It was their life now, the 3 of them. Imperfect and complicated and more real than anything Logan had imagined when he'd first decided to go to that Christmas party. He'd been looking for something that night. Not love, not a relationship, just proof that he was still a person capable of wanting more than survival. What he'd found was Isabella, and Emma's acceptance, and a future that looked nothing like the safe, predictable life he'd been trying to build. It looked better, not easier, not simpler, but better. And standing there on the porch of a house that was theirs, with a woman who'd fought for him when she could have walked away, Logan Reed realized he'd finally found what he'd been looking for since Sarah died. Not a replacement for what he'd lost, not a way to go back to who he used to be, but a way forward, a way to be Logan and a father and a partner all at once, a way to be whole again. And it had started with a notification at a Christmas party, a private message exposed for everyone to see, and a decision to take a chance on something impossible. Sometimes the impossible things were the ones most worth fighting for.